High in the rugged mountains of Colorado, where snow-covered peaks scrape the sky and cold winds howl through narrow passes. Tunnels built by exhausted workers with trembling hands. Tunnels carved by dynamite and desperation. Tunnels where the darkness seems older than the mountains themselves. Trains once thundered through these caverns, their iron wheels sparking against rails that wound through black rock. But some tunnels were abandoned. Left to collapse. Left to rot. Left for the echoes and the shadows. Today, the tracks lie rusted. The air inside these passages is colder than winter itself. And the silence is never truly silent. Travelers who dare explore these forgotten tunnels report whispers drifting from deep within. Some hear footsteps on the gravel behind them, even though the tunnel floor remains empty and undisturbed. Some feel sudden gusts of icy wind blowing from chambers sealed decades ago. And others recall seeing faint lantern light flickering far ahead only to discover the tunnel bends sharply and there is no one there. Colorado's mountain tunnels are scars across the earth. Scars that bleed with memories of lost workers, derailed trains, and spirits that never escaped the stone. Some tunnels echo with cries. Others glow faintly with pale mist. And a few breathe. As if something deep inside is still alive. Still waiting. Still hungry. Tonight, my dear friend, we enter the rail tunnels that the mountains tried to swallow. We walk along rusted tracks. We feel the cold breath of the earth against our skin. We listen for the echo of footsteps that do not belong to us. So tell me if you stood at the mouth of a long, dark tunnel carved into a Colorado mountain, and the wind carried the sound of distant metal scraping against stone. Hello, my dear friend. Hope you are somewhere warm and safe tonight, because the journey ahead will take us deep into the coldest heart of Colorado's mountains. These tunnels were carved by human hands, but what remains inside them now no longer belongs to the living. Rail workers once toiled by lanternlight, carving their way through solid stone as dust choked the air. Some never made it home. Some vanished into collapses that sealed their fates behind tons of rock. And some tunnels claim more than just those who built them. Visitors tell stories of ghost trains roaring through abandoned tracks at midnight, their whistles echoing off canyon walls even though the rails have been removed for decades. Others speak of icy hands gripping their shoulders in pitch-black chambers, hands strong enough to pull them backward into the dark. Some have felt pressure in their chest as if the mountain itself was pushing them out or pulling them deeper in. Echoes bounce strangely inside these tunnels, changing shape, changing tone. Sometimes forming words the listener wishes they had not heard. Lights flicker at impossible depths. Shadows move along the walls even when no flashlight shines. And sometimes the tunnel hums as if the memory of a train still vibrates in the stone. Before we step into these haunted places together, I want to ask you something. And I hope you'll share your answer in the comments. If you were deep inside a mountain tunnel, and suddenly you heard a train horn echoing behind you, even though no trains have run for years, would you run toward the exit? Or stand completely still and hope the sound fades? Take a breath, my friend. And let us enter the most haunted mountain rail tunnels in Colorado. Black Ridge Tunnel cuts through a rugged stretch of mountain where the wind whistles sharply against jagged cliffs and loose stones rattle beneath passing boots. The entrance looms wide at the base of a steep incline, framed by dark stone that bears the marks of old tools. The moment travelers step near the opening, they feel a sudden drop in temperature. Even in the height of summer, when the valley outside swelters with heat, the air from within the tunnel rushes out cold enough to raise goosebumps along their arms. It is a cold that feels ancient, untouched by the seasons, as though the mountain preserves memories deep within its core. Once inside, the world changes completely. The sunlight fades quickly, swallowed by thick darkness that stretches far beyond what ordinary lamps can reveal. The rough tunnel walls glisten faintly, coated with mineral deposits that shimmer in narrow beams of light. Water drips from the ceiling in slow, rhythmic drops that echo along the stone path. Each sound seems amplified, creating the unsettling impression that the tunnel listens, absorbing every footstep, every breath, and every tremor of movement. Black Ridge Tunnel was carved long ago by workers who used simple tools to break through the massive stone. They labored for years, digging steadily to connect distant sides of the mountain. The efforts were difficult and dangerous, with narrow passages widening only gradually as teams chipped away at unyielding rock. Though the tunnel eventually succeeded in linking remote regions, the cost of its construction came with rumors of accidents, cave-ins, and long nights when the workers swore they heard strange sounds beneath the mountain's weight. Some claim those sounds never left. Visitors who venture deep into the tunnel frequently report hearing metal clanging from somewhere far within. The sound resembles the echo of hammers striking stone, repeating at irregular intervals. It often begins faintly, barely distinguishable from the natural acoustics of the passage. Then it grows louder, ringing clearly through the darkness, as though a team of workers continues their efforts just beyond sight. The clangs travel along the walls in waves, bouncing back and forth with uncanny persistence. Those who follow the sounds rarely find their source. Instead, the clanging retreats as they approach, fading deeper into the tunnel like a distant call. Some visitors believe the sounds are simple echoes triggered by loose stones or dripping water. Others insist the clanging has rhythm and intention behind it. They describe hearing patterns that mimic the steady beat of coordinated labor, each strike of metal timed against the next, like a team working together on tasks left unfinished decades ago. More unsettling still are the sightings of lanterns hanging in the darkness. Travelers walking through the tunnel sometimes see a small, warm glow appearing far ahead. The light sways gently as if suspended from a hook or carried in a slow, steady stride. Only the light moves, bobbing softly as though guided by unseen hands. The glow often appears around bends or at the far end of long stretches where the darkness feels thickest. When travelers hurry forward to investigate, the lantern dims and drifts away, slipping behind shadows until it vanishes entirely. Some describe seeing multiple lanterns at once, their faint lights flickering in unison as though a group of unseen travelers passes by. These lanterns never grow brighter or reveal their source. Instead, they maintain a distant presence, as though inviting observers to follow deeper into the tunnel. A few explorers tell of moments when the lanterns appeared strangely close, hovering just a few feet ahead. In these instances, the glow illuminated more than just the stone pathway. It revealed dust drifting in the air, footprints in the fine layer of dirt beneath their feet, and the faint outlines of tool marks etched into the walls by long-gone workers. Yet just as quickly as it appeared, the light would pull away, leaving them in near total darkness once more. Black Ridge Tunnel carries an atmosphere that amplifies every whisper of the unknown. The deeper one walks, the more the sounds and sights blur together, forming an experience shaped by shadows, distant echoes, and fleeting glimpses of light. Some travelers feel as though they are never alone inside the tunnel. They sense movement behind them, hear faint footsteps that do not match their own, or feel shifts in the air as though someone just passed nearby. When they turn, they find only empty space and the quiet drip of water falling from the ceiling. The coldness that permeates the tunnel grows sharper the farther one travels. Some visitors describe it as the type of chill that seeps through clothing and settles into bones, prompting them to quicken their pace. Others feel compelled to continue despite the cold, drawn forward by curiosity or the hope of catching a clearer glimpse of the mysterious lanterns. Many who reach the midpoint of the tunnel pause, feeling a sense of weight pressing down from above, as though the mountain itself is watching them from the inside. Stories passed through generations speak of workers who felt a similar presence during construction. They spoke of nights when they heard voices echoing behind them, calling out in low tones that did not belong to anyone in their crew. Some believed the tunnels opened pathways not just through the mountain, but into pockets of space where old memories lingered. When the clanging of metal returned night after night, they wondered whether they were alone or whether something ancient stirred beneath the stone. Modern visitors often leave Black Ridge Tunnel with memories that linger long afterward. They remember turning corners where their lanterns flickered unexpectedly. They recall pausing to listen to the distant clang of metal ringing faintly through the darkness. They describe the sight of a lone swaying light far down the corridor, hovering without explanation before slipping away. The tunnel remains a place where history and mystery converge. Where unfinished echoes of the past seem to persist long after the last hammer fell. Its cold air carries the weight of time. And its darkness holds countless stories yet to be understood. Travelers enter seeking adventure, leaving with questions they cannot easily answer. Black Ridge Tunnel endures as a reminder that some places hold memories deeper than stone. Whispers that cling to the walls. And distant lights that guide no one home. It stands as a quiet threshold between the present and the unseen, waiting for the next curious soul to walk its long, shadowed path. Silverstone Bore stretches deep beneath a remote stretch of mountain terrain, a long abandoned mining route that once echoed with the steady rhythm of pickaxes and lantern light. The tunnels were carved into layers of pale stone, earning the bore its name as sunlight at the entrance glints off scattered minerals in soft silvery tones. Now, the mines lie quiet. The ground above has long since settled, and the equipment left behind has rusted into relics of another era. Yet the bore remains intact, its pathways winding through the mountain like veins of forgotten history. Travelers who explore the route often find the atmosphere inside Silverstone Bore both beautiful and unsettling. The walls shimmer faintly even in darkness, catching the glow of lanterns or flashlights and reflecting it in strange ways. Thin veins of mineral deposits thread across the stone, creating patterns that glimmer as though alive. These reflections scatter across the walls in sweeping arcs, bending with the contours of the tunnel and creating the illusion of movement just beyond the edge of vision. It is within these shimmering surfaces that visitors report seeing ghostly figures. These figures appear faintly in the reflections as though standing within the stone itself. They resemble silhouettes more than people, their outlines shaped from light rather than substance. Some appear to stand still, unmoving as the traveler passes. Others seem to drift slowly along the wall, following the curve of the tunnel in silent procession. Their presence is fleeting. The moment anyone approaches too closely or tries to shine a light directly on them, the figures vanish instantly, leaving only the bare shimmer of mineral deposits behind. Some explorers describe the reflections as anticipatory, as if the figures appear a moment before the traveler reaches a turn or a bend, watching from within the stone. Others note that the figures sometimes move against the direction of the tunnel, gliding toward the deeper sections before fading into darkness. Though no physical beings are ever seen within the bore, the reflections give the eerie impression that travelers are never quite alone. The air inside Silverstone Bore carries a stillness that feels heavy. Sound does not travel normally here. Footsteps echo faintly at first, then soften unexpectedly, as though swallowed by the stone. Even voices seem muted, lacking the resonance one might expect in a cavern. This unusual acoustics contributes to the unsettling environment, especially for those who explore alone. Many describe the sensation of someone walking just a few paces behind them, only to turn and find the tunnel empty. Despite the silence, visitors often report hearing whispering voices deep within the bore. These whispers begin as faint murmurs drifting from behind or ahead, following the gentle curve of the tunnel. The voices do not resemble echoes or wind. They carry a subtle rhythm, rising and falling like fragments of quiet speech. Some travelers claim the whispers blend into patterns that resemble warnings, urging them to stop walking. Others describe the voices as pleading, asking them to turn back or remain still. The whispers intensify in certain sections of the bore, particularly near old mining chambers, where the stone walls widen into larger pockets. Explorers stepping into these chambers often hear the voices more clearly, resonating within the open space, before fading abruptly. Though no language can be identified, the tone feels unmistakably urgent. Some visitors describe the sensation as being addressed directly, as though the whispers respond to their movements. A few travelers have attempted to stay still in response to the voices, hoping to understand the message or source. When they stop walking, the whispers often go silent. The moment they begin moving again, the whispers return, stronger than before. This strange pattern has led some to believe the voices attempt to control or influence the pace of travel within the boar. Whether the intent is protective or malicious remains unclear, but those who ignore the whispers often discuss feeling pressure in their chest or a sudden chill in the air as they continue forward. The deeper sections of the boar reveal remnants of the mining operation. Rusted tracks line portions of the tunnel floor, and old carts sit overturned, their wheels half buried in dust. Tools lie abandoned where miners dropped them long ago. The walls here are darker, their shimmering layers dimmed by soot and erosion. Yet even in these shadowed areas, the faint reflections persist, and the ghostly figures continue to appear at the edges of vision. Some explorers report a phenomenon in which the shimmering reflections shift subtly to outline entire scenes rather than individual figures. These scenes resemble groups of people working in silence, their silhouettes appearing faintly along the walls as though reenacting activities that took place generations ago. In these moments, the boar feels alive with memory, the stone acting as a canvas for impressions left behind by those who once carved the tunnels. In rare accounts, travelers describe the reflections pausing in sync with the whispers. When the voices urge someone to stop, the ghostly figures along the walls freeze in place, their forms suspended in mid-motion. When the traveler continues walking despite the whispers, the figures begin to move again, their outlines shifting and fading with the shimmering stone. These events leave a lasting impression on those who witness them, creating a sense of connection between light, sound, and something deeper within the mountain. Despite decades of speculation, no definitive explanation has been found for the phenomena within Silverstone Bore. Some geologists attribute the shimmering reflections to a unique combination of mineral layers and moisture content within the stone. They suggest the ghostly figures are illusions created by the bending of light along uneven surfaces. Yet even they cannot explain the synchronized motion or the sudden disappearance of the reflections when approached. As for the whispers, researchers cite unusual acoustics caused by irregular tunnel shapes and mineral compositions. But these explanations fall short when travelers report whispers that respond to their steps, echo with intent, or fade the moment they stop walking. Even seasoned spelunkers accustomed to unusual cave sounds admit that Silverstone Bore carries an atmosphere unlike any other underground route they have explored. By the time travelers exit the bore and step back into open air, the silence of the tunnels lingers in memory. Many feel as though the whispering voices follow them, growing quieter until they dissolve into the natural sounds of the surrounding mountains. The shimmering figures vanish as soon as daylight reaches the walls, leaving no trace of their presence. Silverstone Bore remains an abandoned site filled with echoes of the past and mysteries that defy easy explanation. Its reflective walls, vanishing figures, and whispered warnings create an atmosphere both haunting and mesmerizing. Those who walk its winding tunnels often leave with the sense that the mountain holds stories it attempts to share, urging visitors to pause, listen, and acknowledge the silent depths that stretch far beneath their feet. Hidden beneath a remote stretch of mountainous terrain lies an icy passage known as Frostgate Tunnel. The entrance sits carved into a cliffside, half concealed by jagged stone and overgrown moss. From the outside, it looks like nothing more than a forgotten mining shaft, abandoned long before modern travelers ever discovered it. Yet the moment someone steps beyond the threshold, they feel the unmistakable presence of cold that belongs to no natural season. Even in the height of summer, frost forms instantly on skin here, coating hands, arms, and clothing in fine crystals. Coating hands, arms, and clothing in fine crystals that shimmer beneath the beam of a flashlight. The temperature inside the tunnel drops sharply within only a few steps. Breath turns to mist, drifting slowly through the air as though reluctant to disappear. The walls are slick with ice, layered so thickly that the stone beneath is visible only in scattered patches. Every sound echoes sharply, bouncing down the narrow corridor and returning with an eerie, brittle resonance. It feels as though the tunnel itself is alive with quiet vibration, the ice shifting and settling like a frozen organism breathing beneath the earth. Despite the cold, the most unsettling sensation visitors report is not physical. From the moment they enter, people feel watched by something hiding just beyond their flashlight beam. The feeling grows stronger the deeper they descend. Even those accustomed to caves and abandoned tunnels acknowledge a weight in the air that goes beyond darkness. It presses against the back of the neck, prickling the skin beneath layers of frost. Every turn of the flashlight seems to reveal nothing, yet the sense of being observed never fades. The tunnel extends far into the mountain, branching into narrow passages that curl away into darkness. Some passages are only wide enough for a single person to move through sideways. Others open into small chambers where the ice forms strange patterns along the walls, as though shaped by unseen hands. These patterns resemble ridges, spirals, and long grooves that stretch across the chamber as if carved intentionally. Some explorers believe these formations are natural, created by shifting temperatures or mineral deposits. But others argue they are too deliberate, too uniform, resembling symbols or marks meant to be understood. It is in these chambers that the sensation of being watched becomes overwhelming. The air feels heavier, colder, as though something stands silently just beyond sight. Flashlights flicker without explanation. Batteries drain faster than usual. Shadows dance across the walls even when the light remains perfectly still. Many believe this effect comes from the crystalline ice refracting the light unevenly. But there are moments when the shadows behave in ways that defy any explanation grounded in reflection or distortion. Shadows stretch unnaturally long across the walls. They elongate far beyond the length of the person or object that casts them. A simple raised hand becomes a warped silhouette that reaches from one side of the tunnel to the other. A figure standing still appears to have a shadow that slides forward several feet, as though separating itself from the body. Some explorers describe watching their shadows move even when they themselves remain frozen in place, the elongated forms crawling slowly across the ice like dark fingers searching through the tunnel. These elongated shadows have become one of the tunnel's most discussed mysteries. Some claim the shadows grow longer the deeper one ventures, stretching further with each step. Others report seeing additional shadows that appear to belong to no one, drifting along the wall in silence before merging again with the darkness. These forms move with an intent that feels unsettling, gliding in smooth arcs that mimic the shapes of people walking through the tunnel. Yet when explorers turn to look behind them, they find no one else present. Only the shifting frost-covered corridor remains. Visitors sometimes hear faint sounds echoing through the tunnel. A distant crack, a short breath, a whisper that seems to travel along the icy walls. Others resemble footsteps approaching from behind, though they stop abruptly whenever the explorer turns around. Others resemble soft scraping, as though something drags gently against the ice just out of sight. Some believe these sounds originate from the tunnel itself. The ice shifts constantly in minute movements, expanding and contracting with subtle temperature changes. These shifts may produce noises that resemble whispers or footsteps. Yet even researchers who have studied the tunnel carefully admit that some of the recorded sounds defy typical explanations. The acoustic patterns do not match geological movement. Instead, they resemble sounds produced by movement through air, not through ice or stone. The frost that forms instantly on skin adds another layer of dread. The cold is intense but not painful, more like a numbing grip that spreads through the body slowly and steadily. Some travelers describe the frost creeping up their arms in delicate branching patterns, resembling veins of ice pulsing with faint blue light. These patterns fade within minutes of leaving the tunnel but leave behind a chill that lingers much longer. Legends surrounding Frostgate Tunnel extend far beyond scientific interest. Local stories describe the tunnel as a boundary between the world of the living and a realm of frozen stillness inhabited by beings unseen. According to these tales, the cold is not simply a natural phenomenon but a presence that marks the territory of ancient watchers. These watchers are said to remain hidden in the shadows, observing quietly from the corners of the tunnel, their forms visible only when the light bends in just the right way. The elongated shadows seen on the walls are considered signs of their presence. Travelers who return from Frostgate often speak of the moment they felt closest to the unseen presence. Usually occurs near the tunnel's deepest point, where the frost hangs thickest. And the air grows unnaturally still. In this place, the sense of being watched sharpens into near certainty. Flashlights dim inexplicably. Breath fogs in long streams. Shadows lengthen until they merge into one long shape. That seems to cover the walls entirely. Some visitors retreat at this point, overwhelmed by the intensity of the atmosphere. Others press forward, drawn by the possibility of discovering what lies hidden beneath the mountain. Yet no one who has ventured into the deepest part of the tunnel has reported finding a definitive source for the phenomena. The tunnel twists onward, narrowing and widening unpredictably. Until eventually the cold becomes too great or the equipment too unreliable to continue. Explorers turn back, leaving the secrets of Frostgate to the frozen shadows that fill its silent corridor. Frostgate Tunnel remains one of the most mysterious places in the region. Where cold forms instantly on skin. Where watchers seem to lurk just beyond the flashlight beam. And where shadows stretch in ways that defy natural law. Those who enter do so with caution. Knowing that the tunnel holds an ancient stillness. A presence woven into the ice itself. And as they step back into the light of day, the frost fades. But the memory lingers. Reminding them of the darkness that waits quietly beneath the mountain. Always watching from the edge of the beam. Widow's Pass Tunnel cuts through a rugged mountainside where jagged cliffs loom above dense forest and the wind carries the distant roar of waterfalls. Built more than a century ago, the tunnel was meant to connect two isolated regions by rail, easing travel across the unforgiving terrain. But the passage came at a terrible cost. Dozens of workers lost their lives to collapses, blasts, and unpredictable shifts in the earth. Their families mourned at the entrance of the construction site, waiting for news that never came. Over time, locals began calling the passage Widow's Pass. A name that clung to the tunnel. Long after the tracks were laid. Today, the tunnel stands abandoned. Moss grows thick along the stone walls. The tracks, though rusted and warped, still stretch into the darkness like twin lines guiding travelers into another world. During the day, sunlight reaches only the first few steps inside, illuminating dust motes suspended in cold air. Beyond that short span, the tunnel becomes a cavern of shadows, swallowing all sound except the faint echoes of distant water dripping somewhere deep within. At night, Widow's Pass shifts from eerie to truly unsettling. A woman's wail echoes through the cavern, rising from the depths with a sound that carries anguish, grief, and something older, something harder to define. But once it begins, the sound grows stronger, traveling upward through the curved stone ceiling, filling the entire tunnel with a haunting resonance. Some explorers describe the wail as a lament. Others say it feels like a warning, a cry that reverberates against the cold stone as though trapped in an endless loop. No one can determine where the sound originates. When listeners walk deeper into the tunnel, the wail seems to shift position, echoing from behind one moment and far ahead the next. The structure amplifies the sound in unnatural ways, twisting it into shapes that confuse even the sharpest sense of direction. Those who venture too far often find themselves disoriented, unable to tell how close they are to the source or how far they have drifted from the tunnel's entrance. Some explorers have seen her silhouette drifting between the tracks. The figure appears faintly at first, a tall outline moving across the dim passage, visible only in the brief intervals when lantern light flickers off the rails. She does not walk with the rhythm of a living person. Instead, she glides, her form drifting smoothly, slipping between the wooden planks as though untouched by the physical world. Witnesses say her silhouette is unmistakably feminine, with long hair that seems to float behind her, swaying as though underwater. These sightings typically occur in the middle of the tunnel, where the darkness is thickest and the air feels unnaturally cold. Some travelers report that their lanterns dim or flicker the moment she appears, as if her presence drains the light around her. Others claim she stops when she senses she is being watched, turning her head slightly before fading into the deeper shadows beyond the tracks. A few explorers have attempted to follow the silhouette deeper into the tunnel. None have ever reached her. Each time they advance, she seems to move effortlessly away, maintaining a distance that can never be closed. Yet the sound of her wail often grows louder during these pursuits, echoing through the cavern with increasing urgency. Some believe she is leading them towards something deeper in the passage, while others fear she is guiding them away. The stories of Widowa's Pass tunnel extend beyond the woman's silhouette and the sorrowful wail. Many who visit the site describe unusual sensations the moment they step inside. The ground feels unsteady beneath their feet, as though the earth shifts subtly with each step. Some hear faint whispers carried by the cold air, forming patterns too soft to understand. Others sense a presence standing just behind them, though no one is ever there when they turn around. One traveler described hearing rhythmic tapping along the stone walls, as if tools were striking the surface in slow, deliberate motions. The sound echoed through the tunnel for several minutes before stopping abruptly, replaced by the woman's distant wail. Another visitor reported seeing lantern-like glows deep in the tunnel, drifting in pairs that resembled the headlamps of an old, phantom train. These lights vanished the moment they were approached, leaving behind only a smell of iron and damp earth. Despite the unsettling accounts, the tunnel maintains a strange allure. Its stonework stands as a testament to the perseverance and sacrifice of those who built it. The structure itself feels ancient, though it is only a century old. The air inside is thick with memories, as if the walls absorbed the final moments of the workers who never returned to daylight. Some believe the woman's presence is connected to one of the widows who once waited desperately for her husband to emerge, only to receive news of his death. Others claim she is the spirit of a worker who died deep within the passage, forever searching for a way out. The truth remains uncertain, buried beneath layers of stone and silence. Visitors who come seeking answers rarely leave with clarity. Instead, they carry away fragments of an experience that lingers long after they step back into the safety of open air. They remember the wail echoing behind them, haunting in its intensity. They recall the silhouette gliding between the tracks. They hold on to the feeling of unseen eyes watching from the dark corners of the tunnel. The mystery does not fade. It settles, drifting into memory like the cold mist that clings to the tunnel walls. Where sorrow resonates through stone, and where an unseen figure continues to move quietly between rusted rails. Of the thin line between the world of the living and the echoes that remain. For those who enter, the tunnel offers an experience shaped by darkness, silence, and a lingering voice that carries through the night. The woman's wail calls out across the cavern. Her silhouette drifts through the shadows, and the memory of those who built Widowa's Pass lingers forever in the damp, echoing air. Ironwind Passage lies hidden within a rugged mountain range where sharp cliffs and narrow trails weave between towering stone walls. From the outside, the entrance looks like an ordinary break in the rock, a wide opening carved long ago by natural erosion. But travelers who step inside quickly realize the passage is anything but ordinary. A powerful gust of cold air greets them immediately, sweeping through the tunnel with a force that seems impossible for such a confined space. The chill is sharp and steady, like a continuous breath released from deep within the mountain. What makes the wind so strange is the structure of the passage itself. The tunnel stretches only a short distance before ending abruptly in a wall of solid stone. There is no exit, no hidden gap, no fissure through which the gusts could flow. Yet the wind pushes through with unwavering strength, rushing over travelers' clothing, tugging at their hair, and echoing down the passage in low, rumbling tones. Even experienced hikers pause at the entrance, astonished by the unnatural draft that spills from a place where no air should move at all. The walls of Ironwind Passage are smooth and dark, shaped as if by hands rather than nature. Each footstep within the tunnel creates a crisp echo, bouncing off the stone in sync with the gusts. The deeper one walks, the colder the air becomes. Some describe the chill as numbing, sinking into their bones and making the hair on their arms rise. Others liken it to the breath of a living presence, exhaled in long, continuous waves. Many travelers have reported that the wind carries voices. At first, the sound is faint, buried beneath the roar of air rushing through the passage. Then, with careful listening, patterns emerge. Some visitors hear these murmurs as broken fragments of speech, indistinct but undeniably human in tone. Others describe them as faint cries, softened by distance and woven into the wind like threads of sound. The voices never form clear words. They seem to exist on the edge of recognition, just enough to stir the imagination. But never enough to fully unravel. The voices continue, blending with the gusts until they sound like part of the mountain itself. Those who spend longer inside the passage begin to notice something even stranger. The air presses against their necks with a coldness that feels deliberate, like a breath released directly behind them. Some report the sensation of someone standing close. Too close, exhaling softly against their skin. Each time they turn, they find only empty space and swirling currents of wind. The breath-like chill repeats unpredictably, sometimes drifting across their shoulders, other times brushing the back of their hands, or passing by their ears with eerie precision. Each time they turn, they find only empty space and swirling currents of wind. In moments of stillness, when the wind grows momentarily quiet, the silence inside the passage becomes unnerving. The cold air lingers like a presence waiting just beyond the edge of perception. Travelers often feel compelled to speak, to reassure themselves of their own place within the echoing darkness. Yet their voices sound strangely muted, swallowed by the stone as though the mountain refuses to let outside sound linger too long. Local stories claim that Ironwind Passage was once part of an unfinished tunnel carved by early miners who sought precious minerals within the mountain. According to legend, the workers dug deep into the rock before encountering a sudden, unexplained collapse that sealed off the far end completely. Many workers escaped, but several did not. It is said that the wind began soon after, rising through the passage with unnatural force, carrying with it the haunting echoes of those who never left. However, no evidence of mining tools or remnants has ever been found within the passage. Geological experts argue the walls appear too smooth to be carved by primitive instruments. Others believe the wind is the result of pressure differentials deep inside the mountain, despite the lack of an opening to support such a theory. But even the experts cannot explain the voices, nor the cold breath that touches travelers with unsettling precision. Some visitors claim to have seen faint shapes moving within the passage when the wind shifts. Figures appear momentarily in the swirling air, barely more than outlines, and vanish before the eye can focus. Whether the effect is the play of shadows or something far more mysterious remains uncertain. The shapes are always described the same way, elongated and drifting, as though carried by the very gusts that fill the tunnel. One explorer recounted standing near the sealed end of the passage, listening to the faint murmurs rising behind the wall. As he leaned closer, he felt a sudden rush of icy air sweep across his neck, followed by a soft, almost deliberate sigh. The lantern flame steadied again. When he stepped back, the voices seemed to follow, whispering in patterns that felt directed rather than random. He left moments later, convinced that the wind understood his presence. Another traveler described feeling a hand of cold air wrap gently around her wrist, tugging her slightly deeper into the passage. She resisted and stepped backward. But the wind pressed forward with surprising strength, as though urging her onward. Only when she reached the entrance did the sensation fade, replaced by the warmer air of the outside world. She never returned. Despite its unsettling nature, Ironwind Passage continues to draw curious explorers, researchers, and travelers seeking to experience its mysteries firsthand. Some come for the rumored voices, hoping to hear something beyond explanation. Others seek the chill of the passage itself, marveling at the strange airflow and the impossibility of its source. But all who enter leave with the same lingering sense of awe and quiet unease. The passage stands unchanged, a dark channel carved through stone where wind flows without beginning or end. Its cold breath continues to brush against the necks of those who dare to step inside. Its murmuring voices persist, carried on gusts that defy logic and time. The mountain surrounding it remains silent, offering no answers. Only the eternal whisper of unseen forces moving through Ironwind Passage. Echochasm Tunnel lies hidden within a remote mountain range where narrow ravines cut deeply into the stone and winds drift like wandering spirits. The tunnel stretches for miles through layers of rock, following an old passage carved long ago. Its entrance yawns like a black mouth at the base of a towering cliff, framed by jagged stone that glimmers faintly in the shifting light. Travelers who step inside quickly discover that Echochasm is unlike any tunnel they have ever walked through, for here, sound behaves as though it follows its own rules. From the very first step, the atmosphere feels different. A single footfall echoes 3 times. The first echo trails closely behind, crisp and clear as a natural repetition. But the third echo arrives with surprising weight, often louder than expected, as though returning from a far larger chamber than the tunnel provides. This triple echo shapes every sound within the passage, from footsteps to breaths to the faint rustle of clothing. Nothing remains singular here. Every action reverberates, layered upon itself like a chorus of invisible companions. As travelers move deeper into the tunnel, the triple echoes become even more pronounced. The stone walls carry these sounds along the corridor, bouncing them back with startling clarity. A whisper can travel astonishingly far, repeating itself in perfect sequence. Some explorers test this phenomenon by speaking short phrases, only to hear the final echo return with a slight distortion, while the first 2 echoes match the original voice. The third sometimes changes subtly. It deepens, sharpens, or shifts in tone enough to resemble someone else entirely. Visitors describe the final echo as holding an eerie quality, as though the tunnel itself speaks back. Some report hearing their own voice transformed into a stranger's, carrying an unfamiliar cadence. Others recall moments when the third echo sounded like multiple voices overlapping, creating a layered tone that does not match the acoustics of the space. These alterations are brief, occurring only in certain sections of the tunnel, yet they leave a lasting impression on those who experience them. The behavior of footsteps within Echochasm Tunnel adds another layer to its mysterious reputation. Though the tunnel can be narrow in places, footsteps often echo with amplified strength. The sound grows louder than the person walking, resonating with a force that does not match the weight or speed of their stride. Travelers frequently pause, startled by the booming quality of their own footsteps. The echoes sometimes linger long after movement has stopped, continuing the rhythm as though something else walks just beyond sight. This unusual amplification has led to numerous unsettling encounters. Some visitors describe hearing footsteps behind them even when traveling alone. These echoes repeat in the same triple pattern. But the pacing does not always match their own, creating the impression that unseen presence walks within the tunnel. Explorers who turn around find only darkness stretching behind them. The tunnel silent until they take another step and the echoes resume. The acoustics within Echochasm Tunnel vary in ways that defy the predictable behavior of sound. Certain sections of the passage cause the echoes to compress, arriving almost on top of one another. In these areas, noises become dense and overwhelming, layering so quickly that the tunnel seems filled with sound even when the traveler stands still. Other sections cause the echoes to elongate, drifting through the tunnel in slow, haunting waves that fade long after the original sound has ended. These shifts occur without warning, transforming the tunnel into a living labyrinth of sound. Further into the tunnel, the walls grow narrower and the ceiling lowers, creating pockets where sound becomes strangely directional. A voice spoken forward may echo backward. A stone dropped to the ground may echo from above. This disorientation often leads travelers to feel that the tunnel is warping the very space around them. In reality, the structure remains stable, but the echoes blur the perception of direction. Many explorers admit they relied more on touch than sound to navigate these areas, running their hands along the cool stone to stay grounded. This is a crucial moment for the lead explorer, as they navigate the disorienting tunnel. Many explorers admit they relied more on touch than sound to navigate these areas, running their hands along the cool stone to stay grounded. This is a crucial moment for the lead explorer, as they navigate the disorienting tunnel. The origin of Echochasm Tunnel remains partly unknown. Some historians believe the passage was formed naturally by shifting underground water long before humans arrived. Others argue that early miners expanded the tunnel in search of precious minerals hidden within the mountain's core. Regardless of its origin, the unusual acoustic properties have persisted for centuries. Local legends claim the mountains hold hollow chambers connected by thin passages that cause sound to bounce in unpredictable patterns. Some speak of deep caverns where echoes become entangled, creating the strange distortions heard within the bore. Yet even these explanations fail to fully account for the way the third echo sometimes adopts a different voice, but as entirely distinct. It may sound older, younger, deeper, or infused with emotion not present in the original sound, with a tone resembling sorrow or warning. Though no clear words emerge, the tonal difference alone is enough to unsettle even seasoned adventurers. As travelers make their way toward the far end of the tunnel, this occurs when a sound, especially a loud one, does not fade but continues forward, bouncing off distant walls and returning in a looping pattern. The rolling echo can persist long after the traveler has stopped making noise, following them through the tunnel like a ghost of sound. Some believe these rolling echoes are remnants of noise trapped within the corridor, repeating endlessly until absorbed by a larger chamber deeper within the mountain. Despite its eerie qualities, Echochasm Tunnel remains a place of striking beauty. Lantern light glimmers across the stone walls, illuminating subtle mineral formations and casting soft reflections along the ground. The air feels cool and unmoving. The walls shimmer faintly, and the tunnel waits, holding its breath until the next sound breaks the stillness and awakens the echoes once more. Upon reaching the end of the passage, travelers step back into daylight, greeted by the muted sounds of the outside world. The absence of echoes feels almost jarring after the layered acoustics of the tunnel. Even the simplest noises seem strangely flat, devoid of the tunnel's familiar rhythm. Many visitors pause before leaving, glancing back at the dark entrance as though listening for one final echo to follow them out. But the tunnel remains quiet, offering no sound until the next person steps inside. Echochasm Tunnel remains one of the region's most intriguing natural wonders. Its triple echoes, shifting voices, and amplified footsteps create an experience that feels both immersive and unsettling. Whether shaped by geological forces or something deeper within the mountain, the tunnel continues to captivate those who seek its mysteries, reminding them that sound itself can become a storyteller in the depths of the earth. Hollow Spire Tunnel. Deep within a stretch of rugged highlands, where rocky cliffs rise like silent giants, lies an abandoned rail passage known as Hollow Spire Tunnel. The entrance is carved directly into a jagged wall of stone, tall and narrow like a gateway leading into the earth itself. Rusted tracks trail into the opening, half buried beneath gravel and creeping moss. Though no train has passed this way in decades, the tunnel remains strangely alive with an atmosphere unlike any other underground space. Those who walk into its shadow feel the shift immediately, as though they have crossed into a place where time has settled into a perpetual pause. The first thing travelers notice is the sound, a deep and steady vibration that hums through the air. Others insist it feels more natural, like the deep resonance of shifting rock. Whatever its origin, the sound shapes the entire experience of Hollow Spire Tunnel, creating an atmosphere heavy with anticipation. As travelers continue deeper into the passage, the hum intensifies. The hum never becomes sharp or overwhelming, but it grows strong enough that visitors feel their bones tremble. The deeper they walk, the more the vibration seems to pulse in steady intervals, like a slow heartbeat echoing through the tunnel. The tunnel itself is long and curving, carved with precision that hints at the engineering efforts once taken to maintain the railway. The walls are smooth and cool to the touch, covered in mineral stains that shimmer faintly beneath flashlight beams. Old metal brackets cling to the stone where electrical lines once ran, now rusted into fragile fragments. The tracks continue unevenly into the depths, bending slightly with the natural contours of the mountain. At times the tunnel widens into narrow chambers, allowing travelers to step aside and examine the forgotten relics of the railway era. Yet the hum follows them everywhere, unwavering and steady. Some visitors attempt to record the sound, but audio devices often capture only faint static or muted tones that fail to match what is heard inside. Others try to identify the source by following the strongest points of vibration along the wall, but the resonance shifts unpredictably, as though moving through the stone rather than originating from a fixed point. This inconsistency has sparked many theories. Some suggest shifting tectonic plates beneath the highlands generate the vibrations. Others believe the tunnel creates a resonance chamber that amplifies sounds from miles away. But these explanations cannot account for the most mysterious aspect of Hollow Spire Tunnel. Some visitors hear train whistles echoing through the stone long after midnight. The whistles drift softly at first, sounding faint and distant as though carried across miles of empty landscape. Then they grow clearer, cutting through the hum with crisp, haunting clarity. The sound rises and falls with the unmistakable cadence of an approaching locomotive. Yet when travelers shine their flashlights down the tracks, the tunnel remains empty, filled only with the quiet shimmer of stone and the echoing hum beneath their feet. Witnesses describe the whistles as unmistakably real. Some hear the metallic screech of brakes following the Whistler-esque call. Others claim to hear the rhythmic clatter of wheels striking the old rails. A few have reported feeling a gust of air sweep past them as if pushed forward by the momentum of a passing train, though no wind should exist so deep within the mountain. These experiences leave visitors shaken, unsure whether they have encountered a remnant of the past or a phenomenon that defies explanation altogether. According to local legends, a train once went missing in the tunnel many decades ago. The story varies depending on who tells it, but most versions describe a late-night freight train that entered Hollow Spire after dusk and was never seen emerging from the opposite end. Rescue teams searched the entire length of the passage, finding no trace of the locomotive or its crew. Some speculated that the train derailed into a hidden shaft or collapsed chamber. Others claimed the story was exaggerated over time. Yet the enduring tales of ghostly whistles and unseen movement in the tunnel keep the legend alive. Some researchers believe the noises may be acoustic illusions, caused by wind traveling through the mountainous natural caverns. They argue that certain weather conditions might create a funneling effect, producing tones that resemble whistles or metallic echoes. However, this theory does not explain why the sounds occur more frequently after midnight or why the whistles often follow the rhythmic pattern of a steam locomotive. The logical explanations fall short, leaving room for speculation that something lingered within Hollow Spire long after the railway was abandoned. The tunnel's atmosphere worsens the deeper one ventures. The hum becomes more resonant, vibrating intensely through the ribs and spine. Footsteps echo strangely, sometimes sounding as though they are coming from ahead rather than behind. The air grows colder, carrying a faint metallic scent that seems to drift from the stone itself. Flashlight beams stretch unnaturally far, illuminating the curvature of the tracks in ghostly arcs. It becomes easy to imagine shapes moving just beyond the reach of the light, though nothing ever appears when one looks directly. Some travelers turn back long before reaching the tunnel's distant end, overwhelmed by the oppressive stillness and the sensations reverberating through their bodies. Others push forward, driven by curiosity and the promise of uncovering something hidden within the mountain. A few claim that the hum becomes almost melodic near the deepest point, as though forming a pattern or message too low for human ears to fully decipher. They leave with the impression that the vibration itself is trying to communicate, not with words but with resonance. Upon exiting the tunnel, the sudden absence of sound is startling. The outside world feels strangely muted, as though the hum has temporarily altered Oni's sense of hearing. Some travelers continue to feel phantom vibrations in their bones for hours afterward, a lingering echo of what they experienced inside. Even days later, they may recall the faint whistle that seemed to drift through the stone, or the way the tunnel's heartbeat pulsed through their chest. Hollow Spire Tunnel remains a place of profound mystery. Its deep vibration, bone-trembling resonance, and echoing whistles create an atmosphere that straddles the boundary between natural phenomenon and the unexplained. Those who step inside find themselves immersed in a world where sound shapes the air, the stone, and even the human body. Whether the tunnel carries the memory of a lost train, the voice of the mountain, or something altogether different, its hum persists, waiting for the next traveler to feel its pulse beneath the earth. Broken Lantern Tunnel winds deep beneath an old mining ridge, where rock walls sweat with moisture and the air grows colder with every step. Once part of a bustling mining operation, the tunnel now lies abandoned. A relic of a time when workers carved their way into the earth with pickaxes, shovels, and lanterns that glowed amber in the darkness. Today, the passage is quiet, save for the occasional drip of water echoing through the stone corridors. Yet the memory of those who worked here lingers in every rusted nail, every scar in the rock, and every lantern still hanging along the walls. The lanterns are the most striking feature of Broken Lantern Tunnel. Dozens of them hang in intervals along the passage, each rusted and cracked from time and exposure. Their glass panels are fogged with age, and their metal frames flake away at the slightest touch. Some are missing entire sections, leaving jagged edges behind. They should be nothing more than dead relics. Yet those who explore the tunnel quickly learn that these lanterns sometimes do something no ordinary object should do. The first flicker is faint, a tiny pulse of light deep within one of the lanterns that glows for a moment before fading. Explorers often mistake it for a reflection or trick of the eye. But then it happens again, stronger this time, accompanied by a soft vibration in the air. The lantern glows with a dim amber light, casting a small circle of illumination onto the tunnel wall. Its cracked glass refracts the glow, creating shifting patterns across the stone. The light flickers steadily for several seconds, sometimes minutes, before extinguishing without explanation. These flickers happen unpredictably. Some lanterns ignite only once during an entire visit. Others glow as explorers walk past them, as though responding to movement or presence. When the lanterns go dark, the air chills again, and the tunnel returns to its usual stillness. Many visitors find their nerves tested by this phenomenon, torn between curiosity and the lingering fear that they are not alone. Stories surrounding Broken Lantern Tunnel deepen this sense of unease. Some travelers swear they saw a miner walking ahead of them, holding a glowing lantern. These sightings typically occur deeper within the tunnel, far from the entrance where natural light cannot reach. Explorers report seeing a faint glow in the distance, bobbing gently as though carried by a person walking with slow, steady steps. At first, the glow is small, just a dot of amber light floating in the dark. But as the observer continues forward, the shape becomes clearer. A figure appears, outlined in the dim illumination, dressed in old mining clothes with a lantern swinging from one hand. Witnesses describe the Minera's posture as slouched, as though burdened by fatigue or years of work. His steps seem purposeful, yet detached from the physical world, gliding forward smoothly without sound. The lantern he carries glows brighter than any of the rusted lanterns fixed to the walls. Its light cuts through the gloom with warm radiance, illuminating the figure's silhouette but never revealing detailed features. Explorers who attempt to approach the miner quickly discover. No matter how fast they walk, the miner remains several yards ahead, always just out of reach. Those who attempt to call out receive no response. And the moment they pause, the figure continues forward until it fades into the deeper darkness, taking the light with it. Some travelers follow as far as they can, only to find themselves standing in a part of the tunnel they do not recognize, disoriented and unsure how far they have ventured. A few explorers recount more direct encounters. One described the miner pausing for a moment, turning slightly as though aware of someone watching. The lantern glowed brighter, casting stronger light against the wall. Then the figure resumed its gliding walk, disappearing silently around a bend. Another visitor claimed the miner stopped entirely, standing still with the lantern raised slightly. The visitor approached slowly, feeling the temperature drop sharply with each step. But before reaching the figure, the light vanished completely, leaving the tunnel in absolute darkness. Beyond the sightings. Broken Lantern Tunnel creates an atmosphere that unsettles even the most seasoned adventurers. Sound behaves strangely within the passage. Footsteps echo in unpredictable patterns, sometimes sounding closer or farther than expected. Whisper-like tones float through the air, subtle enough to be dismissed as imagination yet persistent enough to raise suspicion. The tunnel also has pockets of cold that move without warning, drifting like invisible gusts that brush across the skin. Some sections of the tunnel contain old equipment left behind by miners long ago. Rusted wheelbarrows sit tipped against the walls. Broken pickaxes lie scattered among piles of loose stone. Wooden support beams bend slightly under the weight of the earth above. Local legends claim that the miner often seen wandering the tunnel is the spirit of a man who never left after a collapse trapped several workers inside. According to the stories, he continued walking the passage even after rescue efforts ceased, searching endlessly for those who were lost. Others believe the figure is a guardian spirit, guiding visitors away from unstable sections or alerting them to unseen dangers. Whatever the truth may be, the Minera's presence is always accompanied by the soft glow of lantern light and the gentle hum of energy that fills the air. Despite the hauntings, Broken Lantern Tunnel draws explorers from far and wide. Its ghostly lanterns and mysterious figure captivate those seeking stories of the supernatural. Visitors wander carefully along the rusted tracks, listening for the faint hum that signals a lanterna's awakening. They watch the darkness for the moment when a glow appears ahead, marking the Minera's silent passage through the stone corridor. For those who experience it, the tunnel becomes more than an abandoned passageway. It is a living memory, a place where echoes of the past still walk. illuminating the present with brief flashes of amber light. It is a reminder that some histories refuse to fade. Lingering in the cold air and the flickering glow of lanterns that refuse to die. Broken Lantern Tunnel remains a place where the boundary between past and present blurs. Lanterns ignite without touch. Shadows glide between the tracks. And a lone miner walks ahead, guiding those who dare to follow deeper into the heart of the earth. Fireline Tunnel stretches through a barren ridge where twisted shrubs and scorched soil hint at a violent past. Even before reaching the entrance, travelers sense an unusual stillness in the air, as though the land itself holds its breath. The tunnel lies half submerged in the hillside, framed by jagged rock that has fused into dark, glassy patches from intense heat. This place earned its name from an explosion that ripped through the mountain long ago, an event so powerful that the shockwave echoed for miles and the flames burned hot enough to blacken stone. The walls inside the tunnel still carry the scars of that disaster. Soot stains every surface, dark and uneven, as though the fire crawled along the stone in living waves. In some areas, the walls appear melted, warped into strange ripples that capture the light of lanterns in unsettling patterns. Travelers often pause to touch the stone, expecting it to feel warm, but instead it is unnervingly cold, as though the heat that once consumed the tunnel has been trapped deep within, unreachable yet ever present. The passageway is long and narrow, carved originally for transport and mining. Wooden beams, charred and brittle, lean heavily against the walls, holding up sections of ceiling that appear dangerously unstable. The air inside carries a faint scent of burned minerals, a lingering trace of the inferno that once filled the space. Every footstep echoes with sharp clarity, bouncing between the blackened walls, and filling the tunnel with a hollow, metallic resonance. Despite the cold touch of the walls, some explorers report experiencing sudden bursts of heat as they walk deeper into the tunnel. These bursts arrive without warning, as though a hidden furnace opens briefly behind the stone. One step may feel perfectly normal, and the next brings a wave of scorching warmth that rushes over the skin before fading as quickly as it appeared. The heat leaves no mark, no burn, only a lingering sense of dread. Travelers who feel this sudden temperature shift often report hearing something else immediately afterward. A faint sound rising from within the stone itself. It begins as a low tremor, like pressure building behind the walls, then grows into a distant wail. The sound resembles a scream, but not one carried through open air. Instead, it vibrates within the stone, resonating like a trapped memory. The scream lasts only a moment before dissolving into silence, leaving the explorer unsure whether they heard something real or merely imagined it. The explosion that named Fireline Tunnel remains shrouded in uncertainty. Old records describe a group of miners working deep within the mountain when a pocket of volatile gas ignited. The blast tore through the passage, collapsing sections of ceiling and sending flames racing ahead of the shockwave. Some miners escaped through side shafts, but others were never found. Rescuers who ventured inside days later reported hearing faint cries echoing from deeper sections, though no survivors were ever located. The stories lingered, becoming part of the tunnel's identity. Today, those who explore Fireline Tunnel feel the weight of that history with every step. The silence inside is thick and unnatural. Even the sound of dripping water, common in many underground spaces, is strangely absent. The air feels compressed, as though the tunnel is sealed in a pocket of unmoving time. Travelers describe a sensation of being watched, not by eyes, but by the memory of something that refuses to fade. Lantern light casts eerie shadows along the walls. The charred stone seems to shift subtly in the flickering glow, creating the illusion of movement just beyond the edge of vision. Some explorers claim they saw the shadows stretch across the passage, curling like smoke before snapping back to darkness. These shadows never appear solid, always thin and distorted, as though animated by the remnants of the fire that once raged through the tunnel. One traveler recounted feeling intense heat as he reached a narrow bend. The warmth struck him with such force that he staggered backward. As he steadied himself, he heard a sharp cry echoing from the stone behind him. A sound so sudden and full of anguish that he froze. When he examined the wall afterward, he found nothing unusual, only blackened rock cool to the touch. The experience left him shaken, unable to explain how such heat or sound could radiate from stone that felt cold and lifeless moments later. Another visitor described walking with a companion. When both felt the temperature rise. A wave of heat swept through the passage, carrying the same burn scent one might expect after a fresh explosion. They heard a faint sound that started as a hiss, then rose into what they described as a scream stretched thin, as if filtered through layers of solid rock. The scream faded, and the tunnel fell silent. Neither could bring themselves to continue, and they turned back toward the entrance with quickening steps. Even those who do not experience the heat or the scream feel the oppressive nature of the tunnel. The deeper they go, the more the air feels heavy, almost suffocating. Some claim the darkness grows thicker, dimming their lanterns despite fully lit flames. Others insist that the tunnel seems to pulse around them, expanding and contracting like a massive lung breathing through the mountain. These sensations fade once they exit, replaced by fresh air and the relief of open sky. Despite its unsettling reputation, Fireline Tunnel holds a strange allure. Adventure seekers come to test their courage. Historians arrive hoping to understand the explosion more clearly. Photographers seek to capture the haunting beauty of charred stone illuminated by soft, trembling light. Yet regardless of their purpose, each visitor leaves with a sense of unease, carrying with them the feeling that the tunnel contains more than a story of disaster. It contains echoes of something unresolved. Fireline Tunnel remains a place where the memory of heat lingers in stone. Where the shadows shift with their own quiet intent. For the mountain remembers, even if time cannot rewrite what happened within its walls. Cliff Break Tunnel stretches across a rugged mountainside where the land drops sharply into a sprawling valley far below. The tunnel was carved decades ago to cut a safer route through the treacherous terrain, sparing travelers the need to navigate narrow paths along the cliff's exposed edge. Its stone walls, rough and weathered, bear marks from the tools that shaped it, while its arched ceiling frames a direct passage through the heart of the mountain. During most days, the winds howl fiercely through Cliff Break Tunnel. Air presses through the narrow passage with tremendous force, carrying dust and grit in swirling clouds. The wind can be so strong it becomes difficult to walk against it, pushing back with unexpected strength. Even the sturdiest lanterns flicker and strain against the air, their flames bending sideways in long streaks. The tunnel seems alive with this constant motion, its atmosphere shaped by the relentless breath of the mountain. Yet despite the powerful winds, the tunnel remains extraordinary for what happens on certain rare nights. When conditions shift without warning, the wind stops completely. The air becomes still, so abruptly and so completely that travelers often pause, sensing the sudden quiet before they understand what has changed. The silence feels unnatural in a place known for its constant roar. It settles across the tunnel like a heavy blanket, muting the world to a single, breathless pause. It is during these moments of stillness that footsteps echo through Cliff Break Tunnel. The sounds begin softly at first, distant and measured, as though someone walks far ahead, hidden from sight by shadows. The echoes carry clearly across the stone, bouncing from the walls in slow rhythmic patterns. Travelers who hear them describe the unmistakable cadence of deliberate steps, not rushed or panicked, but steady and purposeful. The sound persists even when the tunnel is empty, with no person visible at either entrance. As the echoes grow louder, they take on qualities that unsettle those who hear them. The footsteps do not always align with a traveller's own movement. Sometimes they follow too closely behind, the spacing of each step matching the listener's pace even when they are standing still. Other times, the footsteps come from ahead, stopping suddenly whenever someone tries to approach. The echoes seem responsive, yet no source can ever be found. Even in lantern light, the tunnel reveals nothing but stone walls, empty ground, and the still air that fills the space. The most striking phenomenon occurs at the far end of Cliff Break Tunnel, where the passage narrows before opening onto another steep section of the mountainside. During the windless nights when footsteps echo most clearly, silhouettes appear at this distant exit. The figures stand motionless, framed by the faint glow of moonlight behind them. Their outlines are unmistakably human, though no features can be discerned. They remain still regardless of the echoes, unresponsive to light, movement, or shouted calls. Travelers who have witnessed the silhouettes describe a deep stillness surrounding them. Some say the figures appear slightly blurred, as though their outlines waver with the faintest motion of unseen air. Others insist the silhouettes remain sharp and perfectly still, as if carved from shadow. No matter the account, the figures vanish the moment someone approaches close enough to distinguish their details. They do not run or slip behind the rocks. They simply dissolve into the darkness of the tunnel, leaving no trace behind. The combination of wind, silence, footsteps, and motionless figures has given Cliff Break Tunnel a reputation of unease and intrigue. Those who journey through it during the day seldom notice anything unusual beyond the relentless wind and the narrowness of the passage. But those who travel at dusk or during the late hours speak of an atmosphere that feels charged, as though the tunnel holds its breath, waiting for the wind to drop so another layer of its mystery can emerge. Some explanations attempt to rationalize the phenomena. Scientists point to the geography of the mountainside, noting that sudden shifts in air pressure can cause dramatic drops in wind activity. These still moments could amplify faint sounds from distant rockfalls or hidden crevices, creating the illusion of footsteps. Others suggest that shadow patterns near the tunnel's exit might create the impression of silhouettes when viewed from a distance. Yet these theories do not fully account for the consistency of the reports or the eerie timing of the occurrences. Local stories paint a more atmospheric picture. According to regional folklore, the tunnel was constructed along a route historically used by travelers seeking passage through the mountains long before the modern construction. Some tales speak of guides who lost their lives navigating the treacherous cliffs, continuing to walk the tunnel long after their time. Others claim the silhouettes represent travelers who became trapped in winter storms and now stand watch at the entrance of the tunnel, warning those who approach of dangerous conditions ahead. Even those who do not believe in legends admit that Cliff Break Tunnel feels different from other mountain pathways. Many describe a sense of presence during the windless nights, as though someone stands nearby just outside of view. Visitors often catch themselves listening for footsteps even before they begin. They check the far exit repeatedly, expecting to see faint outlines appear in the moonlit frame. The tunnel's stillness during these moments feels thick and heavy, broken only by the echoes that travel across the stone with a deliberate rhythm. Despite its mysteries, Cliff Break Tunnel remains a vital passage. Its rugged beauty drawing hikers, explorers, and curious travelers alike. Some intentionally visit during the late hours, hoping to witness the rare silence and the phenomena that follow it. They walk slowly through the tunnel, lanterns casting trembling light across the walls, as they listen for the echo of footsteps that do not belong to them. Some leave with stories they cannot explain. Others hear only their own breath and the distant return of the wind. When the wind finally resurges, it returns with force, sweeping through the tunnel and scattering dust across the stone. The footsteps vanish instantly. The silhouettes dissolve into the air. The tunnel returns to its familiar roar, as though reclaiming its identity after lending its silence to something else. Travelers feel the shift as a release, a return to normalcy, even as they carry the memory of the stillness with them. Cliff Break Tunnel stands as a place where natural forces and unexplained phenomena intertwine. Its fierce winds, sudden silences, echoing footsteps, and silent silhouettes create a setting both mysterious and compelling. Whether shaped by acoustics, atmosphere, or something deeper, the tunnel continues to evoke curiosity and caution in equal measure. inviting those who pass through to listen closely to the mountain's hidden voice. Deep Fall Cavern Tunnel. Far beneath a stretch of forested mountains lies a network of winding passages known as Deep Fall Cavern Tunnel. The entrance sits hidden behind a curtain of moss-covered stone. Once inside, the air shifts instantly into something cooler, denser, carrying the faint scent of damp minerals and untouched earth. The passage stretches forward in a gradual descent, lit only by the glow of flashlights and the occasional shimmer of crystals embedded in the walls. The deeper one goes, the more the outside world fades, replaced entirely by the quiet pulse of the underground. Deep Fall Cavern feels ancient. Every surface bears the marks of time, carved by water that once flowed through the tunnels and shaped the stone into smooth, rippling patterns. The ceiling rises and falls unpredictably, forming narrow corridors that tighten around the traveler before expanding into broad chambers that swallow sound. Despite its beauty, the cavern carries a sense of foreboding, as though something waits in the depths, listening to every footstep and quiet breath. Those who venture inside often remark that the silence feels alive, stretching out endlessly into the earth. Near the center of the passage lies the feature that gives the cavern its reputation. A bottomless pit rests in a wide chamber, a perfectly circular opening carved into the stone floor. The edges of the pit are smooth, worn by countless years. And the darkness below is absolute. When explorers shine their lights downward, the beam disappears into the void without reflecting off any surface. No one has ever determined its depth, and attempts to measure it with ropes or instruments always end in failure. The pit simply swallows everything, absorbing sound and light alike. Visitors describe feeling an immense pull when standing near the edge, not physical, but psychological. The air around the opening is unnaturally still, lacking even the faint currents that often drift through underground chambers. Some travelers step back immediately, unable to bear the sensation. Others linger, uneasy but compelled, staring into the darkness as though waiting for something to emerge. As though waiting for something to emerge. It is at night that the pit becomes most active. Deep Fall Cavern is already shrouded in darkness, but nighttime brings a new quality to the quiet. Voices rise from its depths at night, faint and wavering, carried upward through the vast column of unseen space. The voices never form full conversations. Instead, they drift in fragmented murmurs, soft enough that a listener might doubt whether they heard anything at all. Some describe the voices as mournful, others as curious, and a few insist the whispers carry tones of warning. The voices echo strangely, as though bouncing off surfaces far below before breaking through the silence above. The sound is never loud. It never becomes frantic or urgent. It simply exists, weaving into the stillness of the chamber in a steady rhythm that feels impossibly deliberate. Visitors who come expecting natural explanations find themselves unnerved by how human the voices sound, how intentional the murmurs feel. No rush of air or distant water flow could mimic such delicate articulation. Among the many reports gathered from explorers, one detail remains consistent. Some say they heard their own name whispered from below. These accounts often come from individuals who entered the chamber alone, with no companions nearby to confuse the source of the sound. The experience is always the same. A visitor stands near the edge, listening to the faint murmurs. Then the tone shifts, becoming clearer, more directed. A voice rises through the darkness, soft and unmistakable, speaking the listener's name with a clarity that freezes them in place. Those who have heard their own name report a moment of stunned silence, followed by an overwhelming urge to step back from the pit. The whisper feels deeply personal, as though something beneath the earth has singled them out. Some describe feeling the hairs on their arms lift, or a cold pressure settling across their shoulders. The voice never repeats the name. It speaks once, softly, and then fades into the vastness below. For many, that single moment is enough to end their exploration entirely. Local legends attempt to explain the phenomenon. One tale claims that the pit was once a natural well used by ancient inhabitants, who believed it connected the world of the living to the realm of spirits. They believed the voices rising from the depths were messages from ancestors calling out to those above. Another legend speaks of miners who disappeared while attempting to map the caverna's lower levels. According to this story, their voices linger in the darkness, calling out to warn others not to follow the same path. While these stories hold no confirmed history, they remain deeply woven into the identity of Deepfall Cavern. Researchers who have explored the tunnel offer more grounded explanations. Some propose that the pit may open into a massive underground chamber with acoustics capable of carrying distant sounds upward. Water dripping at certain frequencies, shifting rock formations, or even distant seismic disturbances could potentially create patterns that resemble human speech. Yet these theories fail to account for the specific detail of names being whispered, or the distinct clarity described by multiple visitors over many years. Despite its reputation, Deepfall Cavern continues to draw explorers, geologists, and those fascinated by the unknown. Many approach the pit with caution, eager to witness the phenomenon for themselves. Others catch faint whispers that they dismiss as tricks of the ear. But a select few leave with memories that feel impossible to explain, the echo of their own name still drifting through their thoughts like a lingering breath. The cavern surrounding the pit adds to the atmosphere of mystery. Crystals embedded in the walls catch stray beams of light, shimmering like distant stars. The stone floor feels smooth yet cold beneath each step. Shadows stretch toward the pit, as though drawn to its endless void. The air grows heavier the closer one stands, as if the darkness absorbs warmth and sound in equal measure. Every detail contributes to the sense that the chamber is more than a hollow space. When travelers finally leave the cavern and return to the surface, the outside world feels startlingly bright and warm. The sounds of wind and forest seem unusually loud compared to the deep silence beneath the earth. Yet the memory of the pit lingers, following them like a quiet echo. Some feel the urge to return, to listen again. Others avoid the cavern entirely, unwilling to risk hearing their name whispered once more. Deepfall Cavern Tunnel remains a place of fascination and fear. Its bottomless pit, its murmuring voices, and the personal whispers rising through the darkness combine to create an experience that defies simple explanation. Whether the phenomenon is rooted in geology, legend, or something far deeper, the cavern endures as a reminder that the earth still holds mysteries hidden in its quietest depths. And in the heart of that silence, beneath layers of stone and shadow, the voices continue to rise, calling softly to anyone willing to listen. Red Vein Tunnel cuts deep into a mountain range known for its jagged cliffs, narrow passes, and old mining scars left behind by generations of prospectors. But what sets this tunnel apart, what draws explorers with curiosity and repels them with equal force, are the streaks of vivid red running through the rock. These red lines twist across the walls like branching streams, weaving upward and downward, splitting and reconnecting as though forming a network beneath the stone. At first, visitors assumed the streaks were a type of ore, perhaps iron or a rare mineral that caught the light in striking ways. Many reached out to examine it, expecting rough, metallic texture under their fingertips. Instead, they felt warmth. The red streaks are warm to the touch, not mildly, but noticeably, as though heated from within. And the surface is not the gritty feel of mineral deposits. It is smooth, slightly soft, sticky enough to cling faintly to the skin before sliding away. Those who encounter it for the first time often react with confusion, pulling their hands back quickly, instinctively wiping their palms against their clothing as if they brushed against something alive. No scientific explanation has satisfied those who have studied the tunnel. Samples taken from the streaks often harden into ordinary rock once removed, losing their warmth and strange texture. But inside Red Vein Tunnel, the streaks pulse with an unsettling vitality, glowing faintly when illuminated by lantern or flashlight, as though responding to the presence of visitors. Some explorers claim the warmth increases the deeper they travel, hinting at a source at the heart of the mountain. Faint heartbeat-like thumps echo through the rock. At first, the sound is subtle, just a soft tapping beneath the steady drip of water along the walls. But as explorers walk farther, the rhythm grows stronger. It is not the steady beat of machinery or the groaning of shifting stone. It is organic, rhythmic, consistent. Each thump vibrates gently through the ground, traveling upward into the wooden beams and the rails beneath the floor. Visitors feel it more than they hear it, a faint pressure that pulses through the soles of their boots. Some describe the sensation as standing near a large engine. Others say it feels like the heartbeat of a massive creature slumbering deep within the earth. No matter the description, the reaction is universal. The deeper one walks, the more the rhythm becomes impossible to ignore. The sound does not seem to reflect from any particular direction. Instead, it permeates the entire tunnel, echoing within the stone itself. When explorers place their hands on the red streaks, the thumps feel stronger, traveling through the warm surface like a living pulse. The connection between the streaks and the rhythmic sound is undeniable, though its purpose remains a mystery. These combined elements create an atmosphere unlike any other underground passage. Lights flicker unexpectedly. Echoes distort, sometimes repeating noises that were never made. And shadows seem to shift slightly when no one is moving, as though nudged by an invisible force. Some explorers report hearing faint murmurs carried through the tunnel. Not full voices, just fragments of sound that echo with hollow resonance. These murmurs often appear in the pauses between the heartbeat-like thumps, as if something beneath the surface whispers in the silence. A few visitors claim the murmurs form patterns, almost like a language spoken through layers of stone. Others insist they heard their own names carried in those faint sounds, spoken too softly to be certain but too clearly to dismiss. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, many continue to venture into Red Vein Tunnel driven by curiosity or fascination. Some come seeking scientific explanations, comparing the streaks to geothermal anomalies or mineral reactions. Others are drawn by local legends passed down over generations. These tales speak of the mountain itself as a living entity, watching and responding to those who enter its depths. Whether these stories were born from imagination or from early miners who experienced the same phenomena remains unclear. The deepest portions of the tunnel are rarely explored. The red streaks grow thicker there, weaving across the walls in elaborate patterns that resemble veins more than mineral deposits. The warmth intensifies, and the heartbeat-like thumps grow louder, vibrating through the air with enough force to stir dust from the ground. Some explorers have described reaching a point where the pressure becomes overwhelming, forcing them to retreat. Others claim the tunnel's temperature rises sharply in these deeper sections, as though approaching the core of something immense. One visitor recalled reaching a large chamber where the red streaks converged across the walls and ceiling, forming a network that radiated soft red light. As he stepped inside, the heartbeat thumps grew so loud he felt them in his chest, matching his own pulse. His flashlight dimmed for no reason, and the air grew thick enough that each breath felt heavier. He turned back immediately, sensing something vast beneath the stone listening to his presence. When he exited the tunnel, the heartbeat sound vanished abruptly, leaving him with a lingering sense of having trespassed somewhere not meant for human exploration. Another explorer experienced what she described as a sudden shift in the tunnel's atmosphere. The heartbeat rhythm began to slow, then accelerate rapidly, creating vibrations that shook the ground. She fled the tunnel, convinced something was waking beneath the earth. When she reached the surface, she found the air outside calm and quiet, as though nothing had happened. But she never returned. Red Vein Tunnel remains one of the most mysterious underground locations known to explorers. Its red streaks defy scientific classification. Its heartbeat-like rhythms feel too deliberate to ignore. And the whispers within the stone evoke a presence too subtle to name. Whether these phenomena originate from geological forces or something far more enigmatic, the result is the same. For those brave enough to enter, Red Vein Tunnel offers an experience unlike any other. A passage that feels alive, responding to touch, echoing with rhythmic energy, and reminding visitors that the earth holds secrets far deeper than stone alone. Ghost Hammer Tunnel sits deep within a mountain ridge known for its harsh winds and forgotten mining camps. The tunnel entrance yawns wide beneath a ledge of fractured stone, a dark opening framed by weathered timbers that lean inward as though bowing under the weight of ages. Travelers approaching this place often pause before stepping inside, sensing that the air carries an unusual heaviness. From the moment visitors cross the threshold, they hear it. The constant echo of hammering. The sound does not fade or shift with distance. It carries evenly through the tunnel, steady and rhythmic, as though dozens of workers continue to strike stone with tools that have not existed for generations. Some strikes resound sharply, as if hitting solid rock. Others come with a duller thud, suggesting the removal of loosened stone. The echoes overlap, creating a strange, layered chorus that accompanies travelers no matter how far they walk. No living miners have worked here for decades, yet the hammering never stops. The tunnel walls are rough and jagged, marked by the efforts of those who carved them long ago. Deep grooves show where chisels dug into stubborn stone. Splintered beams line the ceiling, blackened in places by years of dust and moisture. The floor is uneven, scattered with loose gravel and fragments of rock that crunch under each step. Lantern light reveals swirling particulates suspended in the air, catching the glow like drifting embers in the dimness. Many explorers enter the tunnel expecting the hammering to be an illusion caused by wind or natural acoustics. But as they move deeper, the sound grows clearer, more distinct. Some describe hearing the rustle of movement behind the hammering, as though unseen workers shift their weight or gather supplies for another strike. Others insist they hear occasional metallic clinks that resemble the dropping of tools, or the short scraping sound of someone sharpening a chisel. The deeper one travels, the more the sense grows that the tunnel is still under construction, though no living person stands within its walls. Occasionally, dust drifts down from the ceiling. At first, explorers assume this is caused by their own footsteps or the shifting of old beams. But many report seeing dust fall when they have not moved at all. They describe small cascades of fine particles drifting from the stone above, settling on their clothing or disappearing into the darkness below. These moments often align with sharper hammer strikes, as if the blow came from directly overhead rather than the distant reaches of the tunnel. A few travelers have witnessed even more unsettling signs of unseen activity. One described shining a lantern upward just as dust began to fall. For a split second, he saw tiny fragments of stone dislodging themselves from the ceiling, drifting downward in a pattern too deliberate to be random. Another explorer recounted placing her hand on the tunnel wall only to feel a faint vibration ripple through the stone, as though someone on the other side had struck it with a tool. The vibration repeated twice, then faded entirely. Ghost Hammer Tunnel earned its name from miners who once worked here. According to their accounts, the tunnel was abandoned after a series of unexplained accidents. Tools would disappear and reappear in odd locations. Lanterns would sway without wind. Workers reported hearing their own hammering echoed back to them moments later, but from a place they had not yet reached. Some claimed to see brief flashes of movement in the corner of their vision, as if silhouettes passed between beams or ducked around corners. Some claimed to see brief flashes of movement in the corner of their vision, as if silhouettes passed between beams or ducked around corners. Though no one could confirm what they saw, they all agreed the tunnel felt inhabited by more than just their crew. Eventually, after several cave-ins and unexplained injuries, the miners left the site. They sealed parts of the tunnel with heavy beams, hoping to keep whatever lingered inside from following them. Yet even after the passage was abandoned, the hammering never ceased. Hikers and explorers passing near the sealed entrance reported hearing the rhythmic strikes echoing through the stone, far too clear to be mistaken for any natural sound. The legend of Ghost Hammer Tunnel grew, shaped by stories of workers who continued their labor long after the living had gone. Today, those who enter the tunnel face an atmosphere thick with memory. Each step carries the weight of a world still in progress, as though the mountain itself remembers the rhythm of construction and repeats it endlessly. Travelers often describe a strange feeling of being observed, but not in a threatening way. Instead, it feels as if the unseen workers acknowledge their presence, continuing their tasks without pause. The hammering never grows hostile. It never changes tempo in response to explorers. It simply persists, as steady as a heartbeat. Some visitors venture deep enough to reach the far chambers of the tunnel, where the air grows colder and the walls narrow. Where the air grows colder and the walls narrow. Here, the hammering becomes so loud and distinct that it seems to originate from mere feet away. Yet no matter how bright their lanterns shine, the room remains empty. Only dust floats through the beams of light, swirling gently with each echo of the unseen work. A few explorers have claimed they heard whispered murmurs mixed with the hammering, soft and indistinct, like workers speaking quietly among themselves. One group described standing in a wide chamber, when a sudden burst of dust fell from the ceiling, followed by a sharp metallic strike that reverberated through the entire space. The dust drifted over them like a fine mist, and the vibration of the blow was so strong that it shook loose stones at their feet. No visible source could be found. The chamber remained empty, silent except for the ever-present hammering. That resumed moments later, as if the unseen laborers had simply paused for breath. Despite its eerie nature, Ghost Hammer Tunnel has become a fascinating destination for those drawn to the mysteries of abandoned places. The sound of constant labor echoes through the stone, reminding visitors that the past leaves traces that do not always fade. The dust drifting from the ceiling suggests work still in progress, carried out by hands no longer visible. And the quiet murmurs beneath the hammer strikes speak of stories buried deep within the mountain, whispered by those who never truly left. Ghost Hammer Tunnel remains a place where the boundary between memory and presence feels thin. A place where the echoes of work continue long after the workers themselves have vanished. Those who walk its length witness the persistence of sound, motion, and unseen effort, left behind in a space that refuses to fall silent. Here, in the dim glow of lanterns and the rhythmic pulse of hammering, the past continues its patient, endless construction. Frost-holed rail tunnel stretches beneath a rugged mountain range where winter lingers year-round. Once part of an ambitious railway line, the tunnel now lies abandoned. Sealed off from regular travel but still accessible to explorers and maintenance crews who document its unusual conditions. Frosthold earned its name not simply from its cold climate, but from the extreme temperatures within the tunnel itself. Even during the mildest seasons, the air inside becomes so frigid that breath freezes instantly, forming tiny crystals that drift downward like snowflakes with every exhale. Approaching the entrance, travelers feel the temperature shift long before they reach the arching mouth of the tunnel. Cold air spills out in constant waves, rolling across the surrounding landscape like fog. Frost coats the metal rails outside, spreading in long streaks that glimmer faintly under sunlight. The stone around the entrance sparkles with icy formations, and the silence that surrounds the area carries a stillness that feels almost unnatural. Many visitors describe the entrance as a threshold to another world, a place untouched by warmth or time. Inside, the environment becomes even more severe. The air is sharp and thin, biting against exposed skin and freezing moisture on contact. Each breath becomes a thin plume of crystal mist. Flashlights reveal frost clinging to every surface, layered in delicate patterns across the walls, ceiling, and ground. In places, the frost forms intricate spiral shapes, as though the cold itself moves with purpose. Even sound behaves differently here. Footsteps echo with a muted crunch, and voices seem to break apart, their echoes scattered by the frost-laden air. It is within this frozen atmosphere that people report seeing frost-covered figures moving slowly across the tracks. These figures appear at a distance, often near the deeper sections of the tunnel where the light barely reaches. Their outlines shimmer faintly, coated in thick layers of frost that blend seamlessly with the surrounding ice. Some appear hunched, walking with slow, deliberate steps. Others stand motionless, their silhouettes thin and elongated against the shimmering tunnel walls. Travelers who witness these figures describe them as distinctly human in shape, yet lacking detail. Their limbs appear stiff, as though bound by layers of frozen material. The figures glide across the tracks or along the tunnel walls without leaving footprints, despite the thick frost beneath them. They move slowly but with a sense of intention, as though following a route long forgotten or retracing steps once taken in life. When approached, however, the figures vanish instantly. Explorers who advance toward them find the tunnel empty the moment they draw near. The frost-covered tracks show no disturbance, and the air falls silent again. Except for the soft ringing of distant frost cracking under its own weight. Attempts to illuminate the figures with bright lights cause them to blur and dissolve, melting into the cold haze that permeates the deeper sections of the tunnel. The sudden disappearance of these figures has led to numerous theories. Some believe they are mere illusions created by the extreme cold, reflections of light refracted through layers of frost. Yet those who have seen the figures insist there is more to the phenomenon. They describe moments when the figures seem to turn slightly, as though acknowledging their presence. Others recall feeling watched, a sensation that lingered even after the frost figures disappeared. Deep within Frosthold Rail Tunnel, the air grows even colder. Ice thickens into translucent layers that arch across sections of the passage, forming natural pillars and frozen curtains. The rails here lie half buried beneath accumulated frost, their metal surfaces warped by years of extreme temperature. Visitors often hear faint sounds echoing through the tunnel. Some describe them as soft footsteps, others as distant scraping or the brittle shatter of cracking ice. These noises come without warning, rising briefly before fading into the stillness. It is in these deeper areas that the frost figures appear most frequently. Travelers recount stories of seeing multiple figures moving in slow procession, their forms faint but unmistakable against the icy backdrop. Some appear to drift rather than walk, their movements too smooth and fluid for frozen limbs. Others pause at the center of the tracks as if waiting for something unseen to pass. The temperature often drops noticeably during these encounters, the cold tightening around the traveler until even layered clothing offers little protection. Local lore surrounding the tunnel weaves together history and speculation. Some say Frosthold was built over natural ice caverns that extend far beneath the mountain range, causing temperatures to plummet. Others believe the tunnel holds the lingering presence of workers who perished during its construction, their forms preserved by the freezing conditions. Records from the railway's early days mention severe accidents, sudden temperature drops, and strange reports from crews who claimed to see people deep within the tunnel long before it was completed. Though no official documents confirm these accounts, they remain part of the tunnel's enduring mystery. Despite these chilling stories, Frosthold Rail Tunnel continues to attract explorers seeking extreme environments and unusual phenomena. Many approach with caution, taking care to monitor their equipment and maintain a safe distance from the deeper sections. Cameras often struggle to capture clear images due to the constant condensation and frost buildup. Batteries drain faster in the cold, and electronic devices fail unpredictably. Still, some photographs show faint outlines at the edges of the frame, shapes that resemble figures caught in motion before fading into static. Those who visit describe a profound sense of isolation within the tunnel. The cold becomes an ever-present force, pressing inward until every sound feels distant and every light seems dimmed. The frost-covered figures, whether illusion or something more, reinforce the impression that the tunnel holds memories frozen in time. The slow pace of their movements contrasts sharply with the frigid stillness, creating an atmosphere both haunting and mesmerizing. At the tunnel's far exit, the cold gradually eases. Breath becomes visible again only for a moment rather than freezing instantly. The frost thins along the walls, revealing bare stone beneath. As travelers step outside, sunlight warms their skin, and the world returns to familiar temperature and sound. Yet the memory of Frosthold lingers long after leaving the mountain. The sight of frost-covered figures and the sudden disappearances remain etched in the mind. A reminder of the strange forces that shape the deep, frozen corridors. Frosthold Rail Tunnel endures as one of the most mysterious and inhospitable places carved by human hands. Its freezing air, shimmering walls, and vanishing figures create an atmosphere unlike any other. Whether shaped by natural conditions or something more elusive, the tunnel invites explorers to witness its glacial secrets. Offering a glimpse into a world where cold becomes a storyteller and silence holds the weight of forgotten footsteps. Deep within a region of rolling hills, where dense woods hide forgotten paths and abandoned structures, lies a peculiar underground passage known as Sleepstone Tunnel. Its entrance rests at the base of a rocky slope, half concealed beneath tangled roots and creeping vines. The opening is wide enough for only a single traveler to enter comfortably. Yet the darkness beyond suggests a passage that stretches far deeper than its humble exterior might reveal. Those who step inside encounter an atmosphere unlike any other subterranean site, an environment that blurs the boundary between the waking world and something far quieter, far stranger. From the moment visitors cross the threshold, an unexpected heaviness settles over them. The air within the tunnel is cool and still, carrying the faint mineral scent of old stone. Many visitors feel overwhelming exhaustion as soon as they enter, a sudden wave of fatigue that arrives too quickly to be dismissed as physical tiredness. Yet beneath these simple details lies a weight that presses against the mind, encouraging the traveler to slow their steps, to exhale more deeply, to rest. Even the sound of footsteps becomes muted, absorbed into the walls as though the tunnel wishes to cradle every noise in silence. The architecture of the tunnel contributes to its dreamlike atmosphere. Scattered across the tunnel surface are small crystalline deposits that catch the faintest light, reflecting it in soft, muted glimmers. The brightness never pierces the darkness, but instead creates an illusion of drifting stars, guiding travelers deeper with their quiet shimmer. As visitors move forward, the ceiling lowers gradually, reinforcing the sense of enclosure. The space feels protective yet unsettling, like entering a chamber meant for rest rather than exploration. It is within this enclosed stillness that the exhaustion intensifies. Some visitors describe feeling as though their muscles loosen without warning, as if the tunnel drains tension from the body too quickly to resist. Others feel their eyelids growing heavy, each blink lasting a little longer than the last. This overwhelming drowsiness often arrives without any physical exertion. Even those who enter the tunnel fully alert, energized, or prepared for a long trek find themselves slowing down after only a few minutes. The tunnel seems to encourage stillness, urging travelers to rest against its smooth stone walls. Some fall asleep against the walls and wake hours later with no memory of what happened. They recall leaning briefly against the stone, intending to catch their breath or momentarily ease the weight in their limbs. Then everything fades. When they awaken, the tunnel is silent, and the darkness feels heavier than before. The passage around them remains unchanged, yet the time lost is undeniable. Watches indicate hours have passed. Flashlights lie dim or nearly drained. The exhaustion that consumed them often lingers even after waking, like a fog that refuses to lift completely. The most unsettling detail emerges when travelers observe the ground around them after waking. Footprints appear around them that are not their own. These tracks vary in size and shape. Some resemble the prints of ordinary boots, though larger or wider than any the visitor would make. Others seem too narrow, too elongated, or positioned in ways that do not match any natural stride. The prints often form partial circles around the sleeping traveler, as though something stood quietly nearby, watching. Sometimes they appear in clusters that lead into the deeper parts of the tunnel where few dare to explore. These footprints often vanish as quickly as they appear. The stone floor of the tunnel carries dust in thin layers, and the slightest movement can blur the shapes. Yet those who find them immediately after waking insist they were not present before sleep. The prints do not match the traveller's boots, nor do they follow the path they took upon entering. Many who experience this phenomenon leave the tunnel soon afterward, unsettled by the thought of unseen watchers moving silently through the darkness while they slept. The mystery of Sleepstone Tunnel has inspired countless theories. Some attribute the exhaustion to unusual minerals embedded in the stone. These minerals, they argue, could release subtle compounds that affect brain chemistry, triggering sudden drowsiness or even mild unconsciousness. Others propose that the tunnel's air composition might shift due to limited ventilation, causing travelers to breathe more slowly and grow lightheaded. Although these explanations address the physical sensations, they do not account for the footprints or the time loss reported so consistently across different visitors. Local folklore offers alternative interpretations. One tale speaks of ancient guardians who once protected a sanctuary hidden beneath the hills. Their presence, according to legend, still lingers within the stone, encouraging rest but watching carefully over all who enter. Another story describes the tunnel as a threshold between waking and dreaming, a place where the consciousness drifts freely while the body sleeps. In this view, the footprints belong to beings that inhabit a realm just outside human perception, visible only when someone lies suspended between sleep and awareness. The reflective crystals in the walls add to these supernatural interpretations. Some explorers claim that the crystals faintly glow when travelers fall asleep, illuminating the tunnel with a dim pulse that vanishes the moment the person wakes. They describe this glow as soft and rhythmic, like the gentle throb of a heartbeat. Though unverified, these accounts reinforce the impression that the tunnel responds actively to those who enter, shaping its atmosphere around the visitor in ways that humans cannot fully measure or understand. As travelers venture deeper into Sleepstone Tunnel, the exhaustion becomes more intense. Some reach a point where standing feels impossible, where every step grows heavier until the temptation to sit or lie down becomes overwhelming. It is at these depths that the tunnel seems to exert its strongest influence. The silence becomes absolute, swallowing every sound. The darkness feels thicker, stretching endlessly in both directions. Even experienced explorers often turn back before reaching the tunnel's end, unwilling to risk falling asleep in a place where unseen footsteps seem to drift quietly across the stone. Upon exiting the tunnel, the sensation of exhaustion lifts almost instantly. Fresh air and natural light break the tunnel's influence, allowing visitors to regain their clarity. Yet the memories remain vivid. Travelers recall how quickly they succumbed to sleep, how still the tunnel felt during their descent, and how disturbing it was to wake with footprints encircling them. Many struggle to explain their experience logically, torn between rational explanations and the lingering suspicion that something alive inhabits the darkness. Sleepstone Tunnel endures as one of the region's most intriguing and unsettling sights. Its ability to induce sudden sleep, its mysterious footprints, and the strange time lapses experienced by visitors create a narrative filled with unanswered questions. Whether shaped by natural forces, geological oddities, or something more elusive, the tunnel offers an experience that leaves a lasting impression on all who enter. It remains a place where the boundary between wakefulness and dreaming reduces to a thin, fragile veil, inviting travelers to step quietly into a realm where sleep comes swiftly and the unknown stands silently nearby. Wraithline Tunnel cuts through a stretch of dense mountain terrain where fog rolls heavy across the ground and the wind carries the faint scent of cold stone. Once part of a thriving rail route, the tunnel guided steam engines through the heart of the range, connecting remote mining towns and distant outposts. Over time, the rail line fell into disuse. The tracks were dismantled. The station platforms collapsed into ruin. And yet, the tunnel remains, a hollow passage carved into the mountainside that has never truly fallen silent. At night, ghostly train whistles echo through the tunnel with startling clarity. The sound rises from deep within the darkness, long and mournful, as though a locomotive approaches at full speed. The whistle resonates against the stone walls, creating layers of echo that swirl like wine through the passage. Travelers who camp near the entrance report hearing the whistle at roughly the same hour each night, just after the last traces of twilight fade from the sky. It is a call that pierces the stillness, unmistakable in tone, unmistakable in purpose, even though no train has run this line in decades. Some listeners describe the whistle as nostalgic, a lingering memory of a train that once roared through the range. Others hear something more unsettling in the cry, a warped and distorted tone that does not match any known engine. The sound feels both familiar and foreign, like an echo from another time slipping through a crack in the present. And when the whistle fades, the tunnel settles into a deeper hush, as if holding its breath for whatever comes next. Those who venture inside after hearing the whistle often experience something even stranger. Some explorers feel vibrations beneath their feet, as if a train is rushing through the tunnel even though there are no rails left. The sensation begins as a subtle tremor, barely noticeable at first. Dust stirs on the ground. Loose stones shift slightly out of place. The vibrations pulse through the floor in steady intervals, building in strength. Until the entire passage seems to hum with invisible force. Explorers feel the tremors travel upward through their legs, into their chest, sinking rhythmically like the beat of a massive engine passing through the space. The air grows thick, warm in places and cold in others, creating sharp contrasts that make the tunnel feel alive. Yet the tunnel floor is bare. No metal tracks remain. The wooden ties that once supported them have long rotted away, leaving only grooves in the earth where the rails once lay. Despite this emptiness, the vibrations persist, moving with the speed and purpose of a train that cannot be seen. Some explorers report hearing the sound of wheels grinding against rails, echoing faintly in perfect alignment with the tremors. Others claim they heard the rhythmic clatter of metal on metal, the telltale soundtrack of an approaching locomotive. As the vibrations intensify, the tunnel's atmosphere grows heavier. The walls seem to press inward, carrying a resonance that feels less like sound and more like memory. A few even claim they saw a faint blur of light rushing toward them in the darkness, a flash of white and silver that vanished the moment it reached their side. The experience leaves them shaken, caught between disbelief and the overwhelming sense that something truly passed them by. Further inside, the tunnel changes character. The ceiling arches overhead in a long, smooth curve that amplifies every noise. Water drips rhythmically from the stone, echoing like soft footfalls. Old rail ties lie scattered in the dust, remnants of a line long gone. But despite its abandoned state, the tunnel feels occupied. The air carries a subtle hum, a sound too deep to pinpoint. Some explorers have reported seeing faint shapes on the walls, shadows that flicker with the rhythm of an unseen engine. One visitor described standing near the midpoint of the tunnel when he felt the vibrations begin. He heard the whistle echo behind him, distant but clear. When he turned, he saw a long streak of light gliding silently toward him. Passing by with such speed he felt a rush of wind across his face. The light had no form, no edges, no physical presence. Yet the sensation was unmistakably real. When the light dissolved into the darkness ahead. Others have described hearing voices during the vibration events. Not whispers, but faint shouts carried on the imagined wind, as though passengers or workers were calling to one another from within the passing train. These voices are fleeting, almost impossible to decipher, and vanish the moment the vibrations fade. Some travelers believe the voices originate from echoes of the past, remnants trapped within the stone. Others think they belong to something else entirely, something that moves through the tunnel when the boundary between past and present grows thin. The tunnel's history adds another layer to the mystery. Several decades ago, a major derailment occurred along the Wraith Line route. A nighttime passenger train plunged into a collapsed section of track just outside the tunnel's mouth. Many lives were lost in the disaster, and recovery efforts were hindered by unstable terrain. The damaged portion of the line was never rebuilt, leading to the eventual abandonment of the entire route. Some locals believe the ghostly whistles and vibrations are tied to that tragedy, the echo of a train that never completed its journey. Whether tied to history or something more supernatural, Wraith Line Tunnel continues to draw explorers from around the world. They come seeking answers, hoping to witness the phantom train that seems to travel the passage each night. Some leave with stories of trembling floors and ghostly whistles. Others leave with nothing but the feeling that something watched from the shadows as they walked the empty corridor. Yet all agree on one thing. Wraith Line Tunnel holds an energy unlike any other. It is a place where sound moves independently of source, where vibrations travel without rails, where light flickers with no flame. A place where the memory of motion remains long after the last train has vanished. For those who dare to enter, the tunnel offers an immersive encounter with the inexplicable. Ghostly whistles fill the air. Vibrations pulse beneath the ground. And the lingering presence of a train that no longer exists rushes silently through the darkness, forever traveling a line that time has long abandoned. Hollow Rain Tunnel lies deep within an old mountain pass, where dense forests give way to stark stone walls. Travelers often discover the entrance by accident, finding it nestled between two tall cliffs that seem to lean inward, forming a narrow, shadowed gateway. From outside, the tunnel appears dry and untouched, its smooth rock showing little sign of erosion. But the moment one steps through the threshold, inside, Hollow Rain Tunnel holds an. The walls glisten faintly as lantern light reflects across their damp surfaces, yet no visible streams or trickles mark the stone. The floor remains mostly dry except for scattered droplets that appear without warning. Visitors who walk the passage quickly notice that the dripping never stops. It echoes from every direction, creating a soft tapping that fills the air in a steady, rhythmic chorus. The source of the water remains a mystery. Geologists who have passed through the tunnel agree that the environment should not support such persistent moisture. The surrounding stone is dense and unlikely to hold hidden reservoirs. Yet the sound continues day and night, constant and unchanging. Some suggest condensation might explain the droplets. But the tapping falls too steadily, forming patterns that defy randomness. As travelers move deeper into the tunnel, the tapping grows clearer. It shifts from scattered drips into deliberate rhythms, each droplet landing with a sharp, distinct note. Some fall in rapid succession, tapping like fingers striking a table. Others fall slowly, separated by long pauses that seem too precise to occur naturally. Visitors often stop and listen, feeling as though the droplets communicate something beyond their physical sound. Many explorers describe hearing the tapping as a kind of coded pattern. It repeats, changes tempo, and forms sequences with uncanny predictability. A few visitors claim the patterns mirror Morse code, forming short bursts and longer pauses in a way that suggests intentional design. They describe counting the lengths of silence between droplets, noticing repeated sequences that differ from the surrounding rhythm. While few people possess the skill to decode Morse precisely in such conditions, Those who do report unsettling results. One traveler claimed the tapping spelled out fragments of words, though the sequences cut off abruptly before forming full messages. Another insisted the rhythm aligned with repeated signals asking for help. Others believe the patterns do not form words at all but mimic the structure of language, creating the illusion of communication without conveying anything clear. Regardless of interpretation, most agree that Hollow Rain Tunnel feels alive with sound. Beyond the tapping, the tunnel remains eerily silent. Footsteps echo in steady pulses along the smooth floor. The air feels cool but not damp, carrying a faint mineral scent that lingers long after explorers leave. Lantern light flickers oddly as it reflects off the narrow walls, creating shifting shadows that give the illusion of motion where none exists. The consistency of the dripping creates a slow, hypnotic rhythm that follows travelers through every twist of the passage. As explorers move deeper, the tunnel narrows slightly, before widening into a chamber where the tapping grows more complex. In this chamber, droplets fall from multiple points, each contributing to an intricate series of overlapping sounds. Some fall from above, others strike the floor at angles that produce sharp clicks. The combined effect resembles a percussive symphony, one that feels both natural and intentionally arranged. Here, the sense of communication becomes strongest. Several visitors report moments when the tapping seems to respond to their presence. When someone speaks, the droplets appear to pause briefly before resuming with new patterns. When a traveler adjusts their lantern or shifts position, the rhythm changes again, as though the tunnel listens and reacts. These changes are subtle, occurring too quickly to analyze but clear enough to feel intentional. For some, the experience is mesmerizing. For others, it is profoundly unsettling. One explorer described standing in the central chamber when the tapping suddenly shifted into a rapid sequence, echoing sharply across the stone. The droplets fell with such speed and precision that he felt certain the tunnel was sending a message. Moments later, the rhythm returned to its gentler pace, leaving him with a lingering sense of confusion and awe. Another visitor recounted hearing tapping from behind them, though the chamber should have echoed all sound forward. She turned to look, but the space behind her remained silent and empty, though the tunnel stretches only a moderate distance. Time feels distorted inside it. Some travelers feel they have walked far longer than the actual length suggests. Others feel the passage draws them forward with quiet insistence, compelling them to follow the tapping deeper into the mountain. The tunnel eventually ends in a smooth wall of stone, with no side paths or hidden passages. Here, the tapping grows faint, as though the droplets fall from somewhere unreachable beyond the stone. Standing at the dead end, visitors often feel the full weight of the silence between each tap. The air seems heavier, the darkness deeper. A few claim they heard faint tapping from the other side of the wall, gentle and distant, like a reply from a place far beyond reach. Others report feeling a strange sense of anticipation, as though something listens from within the stone, waiting for a message in return. Despite its mysterious nature, Hollow Rain Tunnel remains a destination for hikers, geologists, and explorers who seek the unique experience of walking through a place shaped by rhythm and silence. Some come to study the acoustics, others to record the tapping patterns that shift unpredictably yet purposefully. Many leave with more questions than answers, carrying with them the memory of droplets that seem to communicate in ways the natural world rarely attempts. The tunnel endures as a space where water forms sound without source, where tapping resonates like coded messages, and where travelers feel suspended between the physical world and something deeper, something listening. Where tapping resonates like coded messages, and where travelers feel suspended between the physical world and something deeper, something listening. And where travelers feel suspended between the physical world and something deeper, something listening. Something listening. Hollow Rain Tunnel remains a quiet enigma, a place where patterns hide within every drip, and each echo reminds visitors that mystery can emerge even from the simple rhythm of falling water. A place where patterns hide within every drip, and each echo reminds visitors that mystery can emerge even from the simple rhythm of falling water. And each echo reminds visitors that mystery can emerge even from the simple rhythm of falling water. Hollow Rain Tunnel remains a quiet enigma, a place where patterns hide within every drip, and each echo reminds visitors that mystery can emerge even from the simple rhythm of falling water. Storm Ridge Tunnel winds through a high mountain pass known for violent weather and steep, jagged cliffs. The tunnel was carved decades ago to offer travelers protection from sudden storms, but even after years of use, the route feels anything but safe. Its entrance sits beneath a towering ridge where clouds gather quickly, swirling around the peaks in unpredictable patterns. The stone archway marking the tunnel's mouth appears weathered and darkened by countless seasons of harsh wind, rain, and lightning strikes. From the moment travelers step inside, an unsettling sound fills the air. Thunder echoes through the passage even when the sky above is perfectly clear. The deep rumbling travels along the stone walls, rolling through the tunnel as though the mountain itself carries hidden storms within its core. These echoes arrive with no pattern or rhythm. Some bursts of thunder sound distant, like faraway tremors, while others explode through the passage so forcefully the ground vibrates underfoot. The absence of real lightning outside only heightens the effect, making the tunnel feel like a world removed from the natural sky. The interior of Storm Ridge Tunnel is dim, lit only by faint rays that slip through cracks and vents carved during construction. Along certain sections, travelers notice lights flickering deep within the passage. These flickers appear far ahead, illuminating the stone for only a second before disappearing again. Some describe the light as resembling lanterns being carried by unseen hands, while others say the flashes look more electrical, like sparks bursting in short, bright pulses. No one has found a physical source for these lights. They seem to move, shifting location with each sighting, sometimes appearing closer and sometimes further away, without any visible source of power. The flickering lights often coincide with the rumbling thunder. Explorers who walk through the tunnel during quiet periods may see nothing unusual. But when the rumbling grows louder, the lights begin to flicker more frequently. The flashes illuminate the rough texture of the rock walls, casting long shadows across the floor and ceiling. These shadows stretch unnaturally, twisting along the passage in fleeting shapes that vanish as quickly as they appear. Each flicker transforms the tunnel's atmosphere, creating a sense of presence just beyond the edges of perception. Though the tunnel feels ominous at all times, it is during actual lightning storms that its most mysterious phenomenon occurs. When lightning strikes the ridge above, the entire tunnel responds. Thunder grows sharper, echoing with a clarity that feels more immediate than natural acoustics should allow. Bright white flashes illuminate the interior through unseen fissures, turning the darkness into a sudden burst of pale light. It is during these storms that shadowy figures appear. These figures manifest at the edges of the tunnel, often far ahead or just within the boundary of a lightning flash. Their forms resemble human silhouettes, tall and thin, lacking distinct features but unmistakably shaped like people standing still. The lightning reveals them only for an instant, casting their presence against the stone before darkness returns. Some travelers describe seeing multiple figures at once, standing in a line along the walls. Others recall a single silhouette blocking the center of the passage before disappearing in the next flash. What makes these figures even more unsettling is their behavior. They never move visibly, yet their positions change between lightning flashes. A figure that appears near the tunnel's center in one flash may appear closer to the entrance the next time the tunnel is illuminated. The changes are subtle, but unmistakable. Some describe the figures as gradually drawing nearer, though they vanish completely once the storm passes. Those who witness this phenomenon often speak of feeling watched, as though something within the tunnel observes them through every burst of light. Travelers who continue through the storm describe moments where the thunder and flashes align so perfectly that the figures appear almost solid. During these rare moments, the silhouettes seem to gain depth, as though stepping out slightly from the stone. But the light fades too quickly to discern any details. By the time the lightning disappears, the tunnel falls silent again, leaving only the faint rumble of echoes behind. The origins of these phenomena remain unexplained, though many theories circulate among locals and explorers. Some suggest the tunnel's strange acoustics cause distant thunder to reverberate unnaturally, creating the illusion of storms inside the mountain. Others believe underground cavities beneath the ridge amplify vibrations, causing bursts of sound unrelated to weather conditions. As for the flickering lights, some speculate they result from mineral deposits reacting to moisture and electrical charges during storms, producing sporadic flashes. Yet these explanations cannot fully account for the shadowy figures. No natural phenomenon convincingly explains why the silhouettes appear only during lightning storms or why they vanish completely when the storm subsides. Some suggest the figures may be optical illusions cast by cracks in the stone. Others propose the shapes come from shadows of debris or mineral formations that momentarily resemble human forms under lightning's intense brightness. But many who have witnessed the figures firsthand argue that their movements between flashes feel intentional, not random. Legends about Storm Ridge Tunnel add another layer of intrigue. Some tales speak of travelers lost during sudden storms before the tunnel was constructed, their memories lingering within the ridge. Others mention miners who worked nearby and never returned, their presence marked by flickering lights that mimic lanterns. While these stories cannot be verified, they persist among those who live near the mountain and have heard the echoes from the tunnel on calm nights when no storm should exist. Despite its reputation, Storm Ridge Tunnel remains a frequently traveled route for hikers seeking adventure and for researchers studying unusual geological formations. Those who venture inside often do so with caution, aware that the tunnel has a way of distorting the senses. Many report feeling a strange pressure in the air just before thunder erupts, as though the tunnel anticipates the next echo. Others describe a tingling sensation along the skin during flickering lights, as if static electricity builds in the air. On rare nights when lightning storms pass directly overhead, the tunnel becomes a stage for its most haunting performances. Thunder blasts through the passage with breathtaking intensity. Light flares in sharp, brilliant bursts. And within those moments, shadowy figures stand at attention. When storms fade and the sky clears, the tunnel returns to its familiar cadence of distant rumbling. The flickering lights diminish until they vanish completely. The figures do not appear again until the next storm. Travelers emerge from the tunnel with a renewed appreciation for the volatile nature of the mountain range and the strange beauty hidden within its stone corridors. Storm Ridge Tunnel endures as a place where weather, sound, and shadow converge in ways both mesmerizing and mysterious. Whether shaped by geological forces or something far more elusive, the tunnel invites those who pass through to witness the mountain's hidden dialogue between light and darkness, echo and silence, storm and stone. Hidden beneath a slope of densely packed earth and tangled undergrowth lies a passage known as Lost Bone Tunnel. The entrance, framed by weathered stone and half swallowed by creeping vines, appears unremarkable at first glance. Yet the tunnel has a history that sets it apart from ordinary underground structures. During its early excavation, workers unearthed bones deep within the soil, scattered in peculiar arrangements that suggested they were not placed there by accident. The discovery halted construction and drew attention from researchers, though no definitive explanation was ever reached. Eventually, the project was abandoned, leaving the tunnel to fall into silence and shadow. Today, the tunnel stretches in darkness beneath the hillside, untouched except by those who seek its mysteries. The moment travelers step inside, they feel the air thicken, carrying the cold, mineral scent of stone that has remained undisturbed for years. The walls are rough, marked with pick strokes from the halted excavation, and the ground is uneven with layers of dust and loose sediment. The light of a flashlight barely penetrates the darkness, swallowed quickly by the vast, unlit corridors ahead. The atmosphere is heavy with stillness, as though the underground has been waiting, listening, for someone to return. The further visitors walk, the more unsettling the environment becomes. The air feels colder than expected, especially in a tunnel without ventilation shafts. The sound of footsteps echoes faintly, bouncing back in uneven rhythms that distort the traveller's sense of distance. Some describe feeling watched from the darkness beyond their lights. Others report sensing movement near the edges of their vision, though nothing appears when they turn to look. This tension builds gradually, creeping beneath the skin with each passing step. One of the most alarming experiences described by visitors occurs suddenly and without warning. Travelers feel something tug at their ankles in the dark. The sensation is sharp, quick, and unmistakably deliberate, as though a hand or small creature has grasped the hem of a pant leg or brushed against the back of a boot. Some describe it as a light pull, barely enough to disrupt balance. Others claim the tug was forceful enough to make them stumble. When they shine their lights downward, the ground appears empty. No rope, no debris, no natural explanation for the sensation. The tug comes from nowhere, yet it feels undeniably real. These tugs often occur in sections of the tunnel where the walls narrow and the ceiling dips, creating a confined passage lined with small cracks and fissures. The deeper travelers go, the more frequent the sensations become. Some feel repeated pulls, as though urged to stop moving forward or forced to acknowledge something unseen within the darkness. These moments are always brief, leaving travelers shaken but unharmed. Still, many choose to turn back immediately, unwilling to discover what might be responsible for those invisible tugs. As if that were not unsettling enough, scratching noises echo from small cracks in the walls. These sounds begin as faint murmurs, easy to mistake for shifting stone or loose sediment settling with the tunnel's humidity. But as travelers listen more closely, the scratches grow more rhythmic, more precise. They resemble the soft scrape of something moving deliberately through narrow crevices, slipping between layers of stone deep within the wall. The noise does not follow a predictable pattern. It travels, shifting from one crack to another, sometimes behind the traveler, sometimes barely inches from where their hand rests against the wall. The scratching persistently raises questions among explorers. Some believe small animals may have found their way into the cracks, though no one has ever seen any sign of such creatures. Others suspect the tunnel's layered stone structure amplifies distant sounds in strange ways. Yet many who have heard the scratching firsthand insist the noises feel intentional, as though something inside the walls is trying to reach outward or follow the traveler's progress through the tunnel. The sound can become so distinct that listeners instinctively pull their hands away, imagining fingertips brushing against something unseen. The bones found during the tunnel's construction add another layer of mystery. According to archived notes, they were discovered in clusters, arranged in patterns that did not resemble typical archaeological deposits. Some appeared weathered by age, while others seemed unusually preserved. The workers stopped digging in the area where the bones were found, leaving part of the tunnel incomplete. Over time, stories spread that the bones belonged to people who once lived in the region, or perhaps to travelers who disappeared long ago without explanation. These tales, though lacking confirmed evidence, linger in the collective memory of those familiar with the site. Local folklore paints a more unsettling picture. Some say the bones belong to individuals who were trapped underground by a sudden collapse centuries ago. Their spirits, according to these stories, remain restless, tugging at the ankles of those who disturb the tunnel in an attempt to be noticed. Others tell of small creatures that once inhabited caves and fissures in the region, drawn to movement and sound. These creatures were said to live within the stone itself, emerging only at night to wander narrow tunnels. The scratching noises reported by travelers resemble the movements described in these old legends. Researchers who have studied the tunnel offer more grounded theories. They point out that underground structures often create unusual pressure points where the air moves subtly through cracks, producing sounds that mimic scratching. They also note that shifts in temperature may cause the stone to contract or expand, creating quick bursts of movement that could feel like a tug at Oni's clothing. Yet these explanations do little to dispel the unease felt by travelers who have experienced the phenomena firsthand. For them, the sensations were too precise, too directed, to be dismissed as coincidences of geology. Despite the tunnel's reputation, people continue to explore Lost Bone Tunnel. Some are drawn by curiosity, others by the desire to investigate its history. They walk cautiously through the narrow corridors, their flashlights casting pale beams across the uneven floor. Yet few leave without recalling the moment they felt something unseen brush against their ankle or heard the unmistakable scrape of motion behind the walls. The tunnel seems to hold its secrets close, revealing only fragments to those who dare to enter. The bones found long ago remain lost to time, their story incomplete. The tugs, the scratching, and the cold air that hangs heavy in the passage all contribute to a sense that the tunnel is more than a simple abandoned excavation. It feels alive in its own quiet way, shaped by forces that move beyond the reach of ordinary understanding. As travelers emerge back into daylight, they often pause to look at the entrance one last time. The vines drape across the opening. The stone walls remain silent. Yet the memory of what occurred inside lingers sharply. Lost Bone Tunnel does not rely on dramatic sights or loud noises to create fear. Its power lies in subtle touches, quiet sounds, and the unnerving certainty that something deeper, older, and unseen shares the darkness beneath the earth. Dead Train Gate Tunnel lies deep within a rugged mountain pass where steep cliffs rise like jagged stone guardians and the wind howls through narrow gaps in the rock. The tunnel was carved during an ambitious rail project meant to connect distant towns across the region. Yet from the moment construction began, workers spoke of strange echoes inside the mountain. Tools went missing. And some reported hearing the distant rumble of a locomotive long before any track was laid. Over time, unease grew into legend, and today the tunnel is known as the most feared of all mountain passages. The entrance is marked by an arched stone gate, cracked from years of harsh weather. Ivy and moss climb its surface, partially obscuring the old metal sign that once welcomed rail workers. Inside, the tunnel stretches far into darkness, swallowing light beyond the first few paces. The scent of damp rock fills the air. And the silence carries a weight that feels almost physical. Visitors say the passage seems to listen, as though the stone walls possess memory. But even these unsettling qualities pale compared to the phenomenon that has made Dead Train Gate Tunnel infamous. A full ghost train is said to roar through the tunnel once every year. This event, known among locals as the Dead Train Passage, occurs during the coldest part of winter when the mountain winds reach their peak. Witnesses gather near the entrance or along the old railway bed, waiting in tense silence. For hours, nothing happens. The mountains remain still except for the occasional whisper of wind pushing through cracks in the rock. But as midnight approaches, the atmosphere shifts. The air grows colder. The ground trembles faintly. And a low, distant rumble echoes through the pass. Then the train appears. Witnesses claim the train emerges from the darkness with glowing wheels that spin without touching any physical rail. The wheels burn with a pale, shimmering light, brighter than lantern flames but softer than the glow of fire. Sparks flicker in the air behind them, dissolving into nothing as the train advances. The engine itself is massive, shaped like the steam locomotives of old but formed from a strange translucent material, as though sculpted from thick mist illuminated from within. Its furnace glows with shifting colors that resemble embers caught in wind, casting eerie patterns against the tunnel walls. The windows burn with a strange light that pulses like the beat of a living creature. Shadows move behind them. And inside, ghostly passengers stare out. Their faces appear pale, their expressions frozen in blank, hollow stares. Some look ahead, unmoving. Others seem to follow observers with their empty eyes, though no physical motion is seen. Their clothing resembles garments from decades past, worn and tattered, fluttering slightly as the train rushes forward. The image is haunting not because of any aggression, but because of the overwhelming sense of stillness inside the speeding locomotive. The passengers seem trapped in a state between motion and silence, between existence and disappearance. Those who stand closest during the event describe an intense chill that sweeps through the air, a drop in temperature so sudden that frost forms on nearby stones. The sound accompanying the train is deafening. It shakes the mountains with a roar that vibrates through the chest, rattles bones, and resonates deep within the rock. Some claim the sound feels like the collective voices of those lost to the mountain, rising and falling in an otherworldly chorus. Others say it resembles the fury of a real train barreling at impossible speed through the tight space of the tunnel. Yet when the ghost train reaches the far end of the passage, instead of continuing along the route or emerging from the opposite side, the glowing wheels fade first. Then the engine. Then the ghostly carriages and their silent passengers. The roaring sound cuts off instantly, leaving an echoing void that presses against the ears. For a moment, the space feels suspended in stillness, as though the mountain itself is holding its breath. Then the normal sounds of the night return. Wind. Crumbling rock. The distant cry of an owl. And the tunnel stands empty once more. Stories vary regarding the origin of the ghost train. Some say it belonged to a fleet that never reached its destination, disappearing without explanation during a violent winter storm. Others claim the train derailed deep within the tunnel, its engine buried beneath collapsed stone, its passengers lost forever. A more mysterious tale suggests the train never existed on this line at all, instead belonging to a route from another world that intersects this one only once a year. Whatever the truth, the consistency of witness accounts is striking. Those who have observed the event firsthand often speak of a strange mixture of fear and awe. They describe feeling torn between stepping back in terror and stepping forward to understand what they are seeing. A few report sensing an emotional weight in the presence of the ghostly passengers, as though the specters carried stories, memories, or messages that cannot be expressed through words or sound. Some visitors claim that, in the brief moment before the train vanishes, they felt a pull toward it, a quiet invitation to follow. No one has ever accepted the pull, though some wonder what might happen if they did. The tunnel itself bears marks that suggest the yearly passage is more than a visual illusion. Stone along the inner walls appears smooth in specific places, as if brushed repeatedly by intense heat or pressure. In winter, the entrance sometimes holds shimmering frost patterns shaped like rails or wheels that melt away within hours. When the ghost train passes, loose stones often shift, clattering softly against each other even after the sound has faded. These physical signs fuel belief that something real moves through the tunnel, even if it exists beyond the boundaries of the physical world. Despite its terrifying reputation, Dead Train Gate Tunnel continues to attract explorers, historians, and those fascinated by unexplained phenomena. They come equipped with cameras, sensors, and recording devices, hoping to capture proof of the passage. Yet electronic devices often malfunction during the event. Batteries drain instantly. Audio recordings distort into static. Visual footage blurs beyond recognition. The ghost train seems to resist documentation, appearing only to those who stand in its presence. For the few who witness it, the experience becomes a memory carved into the mind. The glowing wheels. The burning windows. The pale passengers staring out. The thunderous roar. And the moment the train dissolves into empty space. Dead Train Gate Tunnel remains a place where the past and the unknown collide. A place where echoes take form. Where something long vanished still travels its yearly course through stone and shadow. For those who dare to wait beside the tunnel at the right time of year, the mountain may reveal its most haunting spectacle. A full ghost train rushing through the darkness. A roar that shakes the earth. And then, nothing but silence. Thank you, my brave friend, for walking with me tonight through the haunted mountain rail tunnels of Colorado. These tunnels carry the weight of centuries. The screams of workers. The thunder of vanished trains. And the cold breath of spirits that never escaped the mountains. If you ever find yourself hiking in the Rockies, and you stumble upon an old rail tunnel, hidden by snow and silence, listen carefully. If you hear metal clanging or a faint whistle on the wind, or footsteps pacing behind you, even if the tunnel appears empty, turn back. Because some tunnels never let their visitors walk out again. Until our next haunted journey, my dear friend. Rest well. Sleep deeply. And beware the echoes that follow you into the dark.